wewe ukazichukua ukaenda ukazibadilisha namba na ukaanza kuziuza.
Ndio uliibiwa?
Mimi bado ibiwa nduzi.
Kijana yako alikwambia liibiwa na nani?
Ngo yele sikuwa na pen. Na hii pen. Pen. Apiko.
Ndio tukapata wewe anatengeneza number plate, anabadilisha, anauza.
Tembea polepole na mwendo wa haste ukienda nyumbani.
How can pikipiki swim like a fish?
Ilienda kwa mtu ikaenda ikiduguruma tu.
Mzee,
ndio nilisema mvua inyeshe wakati ile uko kwa barabara.
Si wewe ulisema kwani wewe ni nyesayo, ubenyesao wala mbuli.
Looking for sisterhood, craving solidarity, ready for a space where every woman belongs? Then Dada Show is the show for you. As we discuss real issues, support one another, and celebrate womanhood the Dada's Show way.
Okay, can you have a moment of applause? So this is it. This is it. This is it. You know what I'm talking about. Hello, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Wachia hapo.
Okay.
Maina, give us on.
Good morning, Victor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wachia hapo. Can you please, gentlemen, a round of applause? Give us on sana wewe. Give us on a round of applause, please.
Let's clap for us.
Louder kidogo. Let me keep quiet.
Without due respect. You know what, Victor? We can do this the whole day.
No problem. Go ahead. Mike. And the kings are here.
Without due respect.
With all due respect. Please clap for me one more time. One more time.
The chief Arsenal supporter in the BH.
Director, if you could just take that clip of Mike and Giverson swearing last week. Aye.
Victor.
Hey, give us.
Wow. But you know, I wished I was praying actually you win this thing actually.
No, you're not.
No, I was.
No, you're not.
I was, to be sincere.
You're not.
I wanted you guys to win.
And Fadili, who is a Chelsea fan, let me check. Chelsea is number 9 or number 15, something about. Yes. You really prayed for Arsenal to lose this match.
After 22 years.
There you have it. There you have it.
It's been a long time coming.
Where were you 22 years ago, Mike?
Let's not even go back to
because,
what?
Let's just face it, EPL is the toughest league, not even World Cup.
Yeah.
World Cup is just one off season. But EPL, give us when you know what I'm talking about.
I agree, Victor.
All right?
But, you know, this is the story of a struggle.
Yes.
22-year struggle. 22-year dry spell. I can't imagine how you manage a dry spell of 22 years to win this title.
And give us on, you know, that comes, you know, I've never found many people rooting for Arsenal. So this is a well-deserved win.
It is. I mean, look at it this way. 22 good years, and someone wants to give up because of one failure? 22. 22.
The problem with this win, the only challenge we have, we don't know how.
What's the problem?
We do not know how Arsenal fans will react.
No. You just wait. It's going to be ungovernable. It's going to be ungovernable. You just wait.
They are going to have a field day with everyone.
It's going to be ungovernable. In fact, from today, I need a new set of introduction for the next 7 months or so.
Wow.
A new set of introduction. Call me Sir Victor.
But you guys, you need to manage.
No, give us on. Stop
Victor,
rubbishing.
you'll need to manage your excitement. It's just a cup.
What?
And it's just a game.
It's just a trophy.
It's just a game. We have next season to play.
What?
Yeah. That's all. You've won. So let's move on kindly.
Okay. My name is, with all due respect, my name is Victor Olo. This is Good Morning Kenya, and Arsenal has just won the league after 22 years. Mike and Giverson will not take it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I say it's a well-deserved win. It's been a long time coming. Congratulations.
What? Okay, fine. So let's do this. Now, it's been a tough week, gentlemen, and we all know what has been happening. So let's take a recap of what has been there, what the government did, what Wanjiku did, and what happens to us now moving forward. A one-week moratorium, there's that window for all the sector players to come, to an agreement and just forge a way forward on how this thing's going to be done. I'll be joined by three gentlemen. That is Oscar Mondi, who is a university don. He'll be here. He's also a political analyst. George Kithi, an advocate of the High Court. Let's get the legal bit of it. They've been talking about G2G thing and all that. Let's talk about that as well. And Marvin Mabonga, who is communication consultant and a political analyst. Let's do that at exactly 7. But right about now, Mike and Giverson, you can do whatever you want.
This win, but it's all right. On to other matters.
Yes.
Today is International Human Resource Day, and it's marked every 20th of May. And we just want to celebrate the impact of HR professionals, especially within the country and worldwide at large. And the theme for these days, empower people to lead change. So it's about leading people through change. And I'll be having HR professionals with me in studio, and that is Irene Kemashe, who is the head of corporate affairs and communication at Institute of Human Resource Management, and also CHRP David William Ochiel, who is an HR expert, will be joining me for that conversation. Later on in the program, during our Women at the Forefront segment, I'll be featuring Damaris Dungwa, who is an organization development strategist and also HR ecosystem builder, just to give us a story of her journey to the forefront of regulatory credibility and strategic governance within the human resource sphere. So those two conversations will be coming to you later on in the program. So I implore you to tune into this live broadcast. Giverson of Manchester United.
That is a good one.
How are you doing this morning?
Give us an over to you.
We are here to cheer you and let you know that as Manchester United fans, we've won this thing before, and we just will let you take your moment how to move on,
right? Manage
the excitement,
right?
We have next season, and that's it. That's it, guys. That's it. But Victor and my friend Mike,
yes,
allow me to dive into the world of news for a moment.
By all means.
Shall we?
Yes.
Now, stakeholders in the Matatu industry have suspended their protest against the fuel hike for 7 days to pave way for further negotiations. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi, and Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja and sector players said the 1 week window will allow for high-level deliberations.
After 2 days of paralysis and pain for Kenyans occasioned by Matatu operators' strike, a deal was finally reached between the government and the operators to suspend the strike. Addressing a joint press briefing at Rambe House Tuesday, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen announced that the ongoing strike had been called off for 1 week to pave way for talks.
Between now and Tuesday, 26th May of 2026, that the strike that is ongoing is suspended for a period of 1 week to provide an avenue for consultation, negotiation between the government and the stakeholders.
While acknowledging the challenges facing Kenyans due to rising global fuel prices due to the crisis in the Middle East, Murkomen reiterated the government's willingness to cushion Kenyans from the high cost of living. Sentiments echoed by the Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi, saying Kenya had already spent billions of shillings to stabilize petroleum pump prices to protect consumers from the global fuel price shocks.
The government has applied some 13.9 billion shillings to manage the cost of these petroleum products. Last night's reduction by 10 shillings on the cost of diesel per litre alone took some 2.7 billion shillings.
Leaders of Matatu operators who attended the meeting, while apologizing to consumers inconvenienced by the strike, said they had agreed to temporarily call off the industrial action to allow negotiations to continue.
Mine is to urge all our membership, our drivers, our conductors, to resume operations effective immediately. If this is not taken serious, within the 7 days that we have given, the strike will be back.
We've agreed to form a committee which is going to look into other issues related to the transport sector, mostly on PSV, because we've been having so many issues on insurance, we've been having issues on traffic matters, corruption.
However, a section of Kenyans termed the move a betrayal.
The person who have said that have given that issue about to return to the job, go back to the job, I don't think he's the required person to do so, because I hope we have the group of welfare of organization of Matatu have the big bosses there.
Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja appealed for calm and dialogue, saying the strike had greatly affected ordinary Kenyans.
Watu warudi kazini, watoto waweze kurudi shuleni, watu warudi kwa mashamba. Let us build our economy even as we resolve this issue.
Joseph Wahungu for Prime Edition.
And our presidential hopeful Eliud Owalo has called for urgent interventions to cushion Kenyans and the economy from the effects of rising fuel prices. Owalo says that despite the recent review by EPRA, comparative analysis shows that the Kenyan pump price is too high, hence straining the households and businesses.
According to Owalo, Kenyans now carry one of the heaviest fuel cost burdens in the world, exposing citizens, businesses, transporters, farmers and manufacturers to hardships.
Even after last evening's minimal adjustments by EPRA, Kenya's petrol prices remains 19% above the global average because there was no change in the price of petrol, while that of diesel is still 14.1% higher than the global average.
Some of the interventions Owalo is proposing include a more frequent fuel price review that is responsive to global changes.
In our case, EPRA is undertaking the reviews on a monthly basis. Why should we be stuck to 1 month? These prices keep on fluctuating. So we need more frequent reviews.
He also proposed the reduction or scrapping of the 8% value-added tax on fuel products, diversification of supply sources and routes, as well as establishment of strategic petroleum reserves.
Establishing such reserves would allow the country to purchase petroleum products when global prices are low, and then offload the same to the market during periods of high prices or supply disruptions.
At the same time, he called for the re-evaluation of the government-to-government fuel import arrangement to make it more competitive by onboarding multiple suppliers. This as the United Democratic Alliance Party accused a section of opposition of fueling divisions and politicizing the Matatu strike for cheap political gain.
Wana run nchi to destruction. Haiwezekani. This nation will survive.
The party's Secretary General Hassan Omar at the same time urged Kenyans to remain calm as the government seeks a lasting solution to the fuel crisis.
Jana peke yake usiku aliongeza 2.75 billion kupitia ushauri wa Docas Odwor na ikapunguza harama yetu ya mafuta na shilingi 10 nyingine.
Meanwhile, Sirisia Member of Parliament John Waluke has called on Kenyans to exercise tolerance and restraint even as they agitate for lower fuel prices.
Natakana tuwe na utu na tuwe na subira kwa vile nchi hii haina spare yoyote. Tupende nchi yetu vile mnajipenda nyinyi wenyewe.
President Kithure Kindiki has called on stakeholders in the transport sector to maintain peace, saying that the government is keen to further reduce fuel prices. Now, speaking in Kinangop, Kindiki said the government is putting measures in place to lessen the burden on Kenyans. The Deputy President commended the public service vehicles operators for calling off the strike to allow room for talks. According to Kindiki, the 10 shilling decrease in diesel prices alongside an allocation allocation of over 12 billion shillings to subsidize the prices is a clear demonstration that the government is committed in addressing the fuel crisis.
Tusitumie ile nafasi kuchochea wananchi, kuvunja sheria, kuibia watu mali yao, ama kutatiza uchukuzi, ama kuchoma magari. Kwa sababu ukichomea mtu gari yake, amefanya bidii akanunua gari yake ya biashara ama ya kusafiri, umchomee. Hilo haliwezi kuleta suluhu, kwa sababu hiyo haitapunguza bei. Ile itapunguza bei ni hatua kama hizo ambazo tunachukua. Tunapunguza kodi hii, tunapunguza ile ingine, tunaona ni gani tunaweza fanya saa hii. And I also want to say, hatuwezi kufanya kila kitu siku moja, kwa sababu pia ile kodi ambayo tunaokota ndio inatumika kutujengea barabara, ndio inatusaidia kufadhili elimu. And therefore we have to balance the interventions we are making to resolve the fuel crisis, so that in a way that we don't disrupt the service delivery in other sectors like education and the road construction and the other things we are doing.
Two families in Kiambu County are seeking justice after their kin were allegedly killed by police during Monday's nationwide demonstrations over the fuel prices hike. The families say their relatives who were not participating in the protest died of bullet wounds, one in the chest and the other in the back.
Families of 33-year-old Martin Rigi and Divas Wanjala are among several families across the country which lost their loved ones following Monday's demonstrations on the rising cost of living. Martin's distressed mother Salome Gashambi says her last-born son was in a company of other several youths near their home when police engaged protesters in running battles. He was shot in the chest.
Na mtoto wangu hakuwa na jiwe. Mtoto wangu hajaiba kitu ya mtu. Akapelekwa na watu hospitali ya Regent. Kupelekwa akawekwa pumbuzi, yani ya kumsaidia ndio at least ya relax. Lakini venye alikuwa ametoka damu nyingi sana, ilikuwa imejaa mwili wote, hakusaidika. Mtoto wangu akakufa.
She says Martin was working in the construction industry and had been caring for his father who is living with dementia.
Huyo mtoto wangu ni kitida mimba. Baba yake akona miaka 90. Huyo mtoto wangu ndiye anatusaidianga. Huyo mtoto wangu sasa sijui nani atakuwa akinisaidia, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunakaa na yeye. Saidia na anasaidia baba yake, kwa sababu baba yake alikojeka dementia.
Naomba justice kwa mtoto wetu, huyo mwenye alimuua. Na ajue justice kubwa ni ya Mungu. Hata akihepa hii ya serikali, ya Mungu iko. Hiyo hawezi hepa. Lakini pia tunaombea mtoto wetu justice, sababu ameuliwa innocent, akiwa shughuli zake za maisha, bullet ikampata.
Meanwhile, the family of Divas Wanjala is appealing to the government to support in transporting his body to Nakuru for burial. His uncle Rogers Wafula says Wanjala was working in an affordable housing construction project in Kiambu town and was heading home from work when he was shot in the back.
Risasi ilimupata tu ghafla bila yeye kujua, na tunataka shirika yoyote ambao inaweza ikatusaidia ijitokeze ili tuweze kupata haki, itusaidie kushughulika, kwa sababu sisi hatujui mahali tutaanzia kama familia.
The two-day protests have left 4 people dead, several injured, and property worth millions of shillings destroyed.
The Ministry of Gender, Culture and Children Services has called for urgent, deliberate and concerted efforts to tackle the alarming cases of gender-based violence and child exploitation and abuse in the country. According to the Ministry's Cabinet Secretary, Hannah Chiptumo, Kenya has recorded a total of 10,531 cases of child abuse in the period between 1st January 2025 to 31st March this year, a vice that requires immediate intervention from all sectors of society.
1st January 2025 and 31st March 2026, a total of 10,581 cases have been reported.
The rising yet heartbreaking spate of child exploitation and gender-based violence, including the recent killing of Rachel Wandeto, who was reportedly doused in petrol, have sparked the attention of various stakeholders, including the Ministry of Gender, Culture and Children's Services.
These are not isolated tragedies, but indicators of a growing national crisis that demands urgent, coordinated and sustained action from all sectors of our society.
To curb this worrying trend, the ministry has challenged the Council of Governors to allocate adequate county budgets to facilitate gender-based violence prevention and response mechanisms in the country.
Legal and justice response, fast-tracking prosecutions, enhancing enforcement mechanisms, pursuing stringent penalties for perpetrators of femicide and attacks, and I emphasize all attacks, including acid attacks, child abuse, trafficking, and all forms of violence, and ensuring that zero tolerance for police inaction.
Cabinet Secretary Hannah Cheptumo has at the same time urged the judiciary and the country's legal systems to expedite survivor-centered hearings to ensure justice is accorded to the affected.
The Culture and Children's Services urges the National Police and the Directorate of Criminal Investigation to expedite investigations into all reported cases of GBV, femicide and violence against all persons.
While attributing the vice to the adoption of barbaric cultures and the continued exposure to the evolving digital space, the ministry has urged parents and the community at large to be at the forefront in protecting the welfare of the vulnerable groups.
We're trying to see how then can we use this stage where we will go around to ensure that, be it Baringo, from Turkana to Lamu, all over Kenya, Northeastern, all issues that touch on GBV, all issues that touch on early child marriages are spoken into.
To report any cases of gender-based violence and child abuse, the government has issued a national GBV toll-free line, that is 1195, or WhatsApp line 0724 884444.
We want to urge the public that circulating information of a child without the knowledge of the parents or the ministry, you are breaching the privacy of that child under the Data Protection Act.
Now, Kenya has heightened surveillance and screening at Busia border post following the outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo that has claimed over 130 lives. The government has deployed a team of medics to screen travelers from the Great Lakes region following reports that neighboring Uganda has already reported one death linked to the Ebola virus.
Kenya has stepped up Ebola virus surveillance at border points with Uganda after reports emerged that the neighboring country has already reported one death linked to the deadly disease. All passengers entering Kenya from the Great Lakes region now have to undergo mandatory checks as Kenya tries to weed out the virus from accessing the country. Emergency medical teams have been stationed at major border points with Uganda just a few days after the World Health Organization declared Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda an international public health emergency concern.
There have been several deaths, up to 65 deaths in the DRC, that's the Democratic Republic of Congo, 4 of which have been certified to be as a result of the Ebola virus. Now that calls upon us as a county government, Department of Health, as a country to be alert.
Clearing and forwarding agents Busia, nakuwa worried kwa ajili cross border. Tuko na wale ambao wanatoka Uganda wakiingia Kenya, wanatoka Congo na Rwanda, na hawa watu we interact with them.
Serikali wanaweza saidia sisi wakati tuna cross, na wanatupima na waweke sanitizer, watupime kabla tujaenda, watupime tena kama tunarudi.
According to WHO, the virus has killed 131 people in the DR Congo, and officials say more than 513 cases are now suspected in the country. One person has died in neighboring Uganda. The disease is caused by through direct contact with the blood, body fluids, secretions or excretions of infected individuals or animals. According to WHO, early symptoms include fever, muscle pain, fatigue, headache, and sore throat.
Now, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Bade is rooting for new and alternative infrastructure financing options to close the funding gap. Now, speaking during the listing of Spearhead Africa Infrastructure Fund on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, Mbadi said the capital markets offers a sustainable financing for projects in renewable energy, digital infrastructure, logistics, and energy. Here's more.
Spearhead Africa Infrastructure Fund raised 3.4 billion shillings during its initial public offer. It was anchored by the CPF Group and the UK government's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, through its Mobilist program. The listing that has created a new asset class in the capital market paves the way for pension funds and other investors to access regulated, tradable infrastructure projects while boosting transparency and liquidity.
Individual investors understand infrastructure. They are also looking for attractive returns. And our market is very dynamic. Our individual investors are very dynamic, and they have been calling for opportunities that will diversify beyond just government bonds and a handful of listed equities.
Kenya's ambition is to build an economy that works for every citizen. That ambition rests fundamentally on modern, efficient, and resilient infrastructure. Yet the financing requirements are immense.
Spearhead Africa Infrastructure Fund is expected to invest in a diverse portfolio of senior debt across private sector-led infrastructure projects across East Africa.
Infrastructure, when accessed through well-structured, professionally managed, and transparent instruments such as what SAFE is offers exactly the characteristics that long-term investors seek.
And we at NSC have also aggressively repositioned from being merely a trading venue into a strategic capital formation platform for our region.
The fund offers long-term infrastructure financing in Kenya shillings while eliminating foreign exchange risks for investors.
And now let's get sporty for a moment. The national soccer team Harambee Stars has been pulled in Group D of the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers alongside South Africa, Eritrea and Guinea. The opening two match days are scheduled on the 21st of September to 6th October 2026. Kenya has automatically qualified for the 24-team showpiece with our East African counterparts Uganda and Tanzania as co-host, but will nevertheless take part in the qualifiers.
Prime edition.
And now the good news to Arsenal fans is now very clear that Arsenal are the title winners English Premier League 2025-2026 season, and this is after Manchester United drew with AFC Bournemouth 1-1. And so it doesn't matter whether Arsenal wins their next game or not, they are EPL title winners 2025-2026. And congratulations to Arsenal fans in Kenya and across the whole world, including Victor Olo here in studio. And so that's where we end news coverage for now, but Good Morning Kenya show continues on the other side with Victor Olo. But before that, a short commercial break.
On time for the Big Minds show. The way I balance school and skating is, well, Monday to Friday I go to school, and Saturday to Sunday I go to skating. My other talent is dancing, modeling, I also play ice hockey and roller hockey.
And today we are reading the book Senzo and the Sun.
Snakes let slow on a sunny sun. And today I'm going to show you how to make stuffed tortilla.
Uwe nayo kila hali, nipo wende masomoni, mwanafunzi wa shuleni, onyesha adabu yako.
Ata, sio ngona kuja kuchukua, sio tabu hivyo. Na shapasi. Kimaliza, nitapitia hapa ngenda steni, nitakuregeshe.
Sitakuchoma.
Hapa ni mkono wapata moto makerekani.
Haya
pasi hiyo, lakini hala, pasi yenyewe si yangu. Utumie ukimaliza tu niregeshe.
Toke kule ninatoka mwenyewe na haraka zangu, ninakuja kuchukua changu. Leo waje kuniambia changu hakiko changu, na kukabidhi wewe. Leo kiko nyumba ya pili. Wewe ulipata mahari ya kumuoa Amina, ukashindwa kununua pasi.
Imevunjika mkono, ukimwomba msamahani huo mkono utawekwa binadamu.
Sasa si pasi mpya itanunuliwa. Wewe wajua pasi hakuna.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
All right, welcome back. It's now 4 minutes past 7 a.m. Good morning. Welcome back. And give us on, it's Manchester City, not Manchester United. Of course, we all understand. All right, let's get into it. So it's been a very tough week. Past 2 days, we've seen the Matatu transport in the country being paralyzed after Matatu sector players went on strike, seeking a balance with the government. This in light with increased fuel prices. But yesterday, the government said, and the sector players, that they are going to have a 1 week off for them to have a middle ground for this to happen. So let's talk about that. It's come after a storm, right? And let's see where we strike the balance. I want us to talk about that for the next one hour, and I ask you to stay with us until the end. My name is Victor Lowe. On set, I'm joined by Marvin Mabonga. Marvin Mabonga is a political analyst. He's also a communications expert, and he'll also tell us so much more about him. Marvin, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Victor.
Karibu.
So my name is Marvin Mabonga.
Right.
I'm so much interested in politics and whatever happens in the country. Currently, I work with former Chief Justice David Maraga. And so we are working on an Ukatiba caravan.
Very nice.
To ensure that we rejuvenate this country. And so we are calling our campaign an Ukombozi campaign.
An Ukombozi campaign.
To ensure that this country actually is brought back to its footage.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We'll get more into that. And Oscar Mondi is a university don. He's also political and governance expert as well. Oscar, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
Good to see you.
And congratulations to the wait for 22 years.
You just have to say,
cabinet
just say congratulations and that is enough, Oscar.
No, I'm asking, do you even have Arsenal fans or Arsenal?
Let's go back.
Cabinet to keep those trophies.
Just say congratulations.
It's not normal.
No.
It's shocking that Arsenal has won the league.
No.
I'm shocked.
No, just say congratulations.
And like,
congratulations is just enough.
They won anyway. Congratulations, bro.
The last time Arsenal won, I was 2 years old.
Oh, God.
You were 2 years old.
Oh, God. This is a moment for you in a lifetime.
What was the jersey you had then?
In fact, now it's time for you to celebrate even more. Oscar, we did well.
Thank you. Yeah,
what does that really tell you, basically in life? Giving up is an option, and not giving up is also an option.
Yes. I think this one tells that you can always struggle. At the end of the day, There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Do you know how many years of ridicule and tears and pain?
Not even how many years of ridicule. People have committed suicide because of this thing called Arsenal.
Exactly.
And we've lost lives. So I think we won't lose more lives because of the excitement also. After 22 years of wait, I hope they calm down and the celebration should be moderate. So you don't lose more lives because of celebration. We might also lose lives because of celebration.
This is going to be ungovernable.
Because Arsenal, to be honest, I've watched their fans, they're so emotional. I think the most emotional fans, if you watch Arsenal matches,
yes,
sometimes when the camera goes to, when they're almost losing, when the camera goes to the crowd, you see small children, women, and people, and old people, and they're very, very emotional, which you don't see in other teams.
What I should tell you, that if you have, that is real passion, real passion,
yes,
and if you have got real fanatics, they don't matter. It doesn't matter where they go to. You know, they travel. Some of them buy tickets for a whole season.
The thing,
again,
the thing I was understanding yesterday from a debate about this particular league.
Yes.
That most of Chelsea and Man City fans were once Arsenal fans, but they gave up along the way.
They decamped.
Yeah, they decamped
because of the long wait.
Because of the long
wait. What next? Are they going to come back? No,
they can't come back.
All right. Okay. Let's get into this. So on the front page of the Standard, gentlemen, Walking Nation. This is just based on what happened in the last 2 days. Walking Nation. Nothing stands in the way of President William Ruto's taste for finer things in life. Not citizens forced to trek for kilometers as they try to eke out a living, and not even relatives mourning loved ones shot by police during the 2-day Matatu protests. As he flies in private jets and cruises in the latest Mercedes-Benz, Governor Johnson Sakaja has been designated as a trustee in talks with transport sector players in the fuel price negotiations, while his cabinet secretaries lurch from one blunder to another, and Deputy President Kithure Kindiki appears adrift amid the unfolding development as the president keeps flying. That is on the front page of the Standard. I have to put it there for the record. Okay, that is what's on the front page of the Standard newspaper. On the inner pages, there is that case of many people who were shot. The families are now actually seeking for justice for their loved ones who lost their lives during the protest. On the front page of the Star, Matatu operators call off boycott as state seeks way out. Matatu operators call off boycott as state seeks way out. Commuters, however, still facing relatively high fares. They're not so certain on how it's going to be. It's been a walking nation and tough 2 days. Senators summon IG over alleged expulsion of pregnant recruits. That is on the inner pages of the Star newspaper. But there's also something quite interesting here. India turns to Kenya for Africa growth strategy. Remember, there's another India-Africa summit that is coming up, gentlemen. After we had France-Africa summit, why the interest all of a sudden on Africa? And finally, on the front page of the Daily Nation, how state can lower fuel prices. How state can lower fuel prices. It's a case of crisis. Heavy taxation has worsened matters at a time global prices have skyrocketed due to US-Israel war on Iran. So the Daily Nation has given, a bit of some statistics and suggestions on how the fuel prices can be reduced. But even that, the act of balancing this is with the international oil prices well beyond the government control and the fuel subsidy kitty all but exhausted. Petroleum taxes and margins enjoyed by all marketing companies will become the focal point for state negotiators seeking to appease public sector transport operators as they also race against time to lower the cost of fuel within the next 7 days. Will they succeed in averting another economic shutdown? That's what's here. And yesterday when I had a discussion, an interview with CS, that is John Mbadi, he said that the National Treasury has run out of options available, and he's also asking the Matatu sector players to go slow on this because whatever is happening is beyond the government's control. Gentlemen, let's come back to it. Let's talk about finding the balance. It was a very tough week, Marvin. Many Kenyans, it was a very tough week, but Kenyans are resilient.
Yeah, sure. It has been a very tough week, honestly, as we speak. We've seen what has happened. for the past 2 days, especially with the strike in matters fuel prices. Remember that EPRA has been revising the prices. In a few weeks ago, there are some kind of prices that were increased on fuel. Remember, this government actually, they increased that fuel with 30 shillings and then thereafter reduced it with 10 shillings. And then a few days ago, we saw that the government increased even more on diesel. It's the first time whereby we are buying fuel at $1.8 per liter. Kenya, actually, when you look at how prices, fuel prices are across the continent, you'll find out that Kenya is our country. We are purchasing fuel at a very expensive rate as compared to our neighbors and even other countries out there. We have Algeria. I hope you know Algeria. Algeria is in the West Africa or Northern Africa?
Northern bit of it.
Yeah, they purchase fuel at $0.36. That is about 46.44 Kenyan shillings. While Kenya, in East Africa, and we have a port, we're purchasing fuel at $1.8. That is about 244 Kenyan shillings. Why? One of the reasons why we're having these issues is because the government has not been able to manage their own interests. You find out that we're having these prices being hiked because most of the government officials actually are in petroleum. They do business among themselves.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, sure, honestly. It is in the public domain because one of the reasons why I say that is because of what the president said when he was the deputy president. You remember when he was questioning about why fuel in Kenya is expensive as compared to Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda, Burundi. Yet all these products are going through Kenya before being consumed in all those countries. But then we thought it was about the conflict in the Middle East. But you'll find out that it was kind of a PR exercise whereby the then deputy president wanted to use it for political kind of mileage. So up to date, he is the president and still the prices are going up. Will he still tell us that his own government is doing some PR exercise? There is no kind of war or conflict in the Middle East that is affecting our fuel prices. So what we need to understand, what the government needs to set clear, we need to get our priorities first. If we get into these offices, want to trade amongst ourselves so that we can make probably some profits, rather than thinking about what the normal Kenyan citizen is going through, then it's not going to be a walk in the park.
Okay.
So we need to get our priorities right
as a nation.
And then we also need to come out clearly whether it is a conflict issue in the Middle East, or it's just a personal interest whereby we want to increase all these prices. So tell me how fuel in Algeria is $0.3 while fuel in Kenya is $1.8.
A question that we'll ask ourselves later on in the program. Oscar, a tough week, and I believe that you are also part of it.
There's nothing tough. Nothing. People don't just want to read. People are not exposed. The question is, how did we get here? The other question is, what are we expecting for future? The truth of the matter is, on 14th of June, next month, fuel will go up. That is the truth. So let's prepare. How do we prepare? Probably have different policies on how to deal with this thing. Let Matatus in the cities, for example, have passengers who are standing. Let government, if chaser cars for probably ministers, stop the chaser cars. Let's see how we can use not many liters of fuel. Let us conserve. When we had a problem with energy, when there's no power, electricity, what do we normally do?
Yeah.
We do rationing. That is the only way to go, because Strait of Hormuz is not opened. The reason why Strait of Hormuz is not open, because how Iran fought this war, it went into an economic sabotage. Instead of fighting against the US and against Israel, they decided to bomb Qatar, gas, which is one of the biggest producers of gas in the world. They decided to bomb Saudi Arabia's fuel areas, and all this, and then they closed the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world energy passes through. They bombed tankers. When they bombed tankers, what happened is that when any ship is in the sea, coming with fuel to this part of the world, it must be insured.
Yes.
And when there's that bombing around that Strait of Hormuz, the insurance of this fuel, of these tankers, went extremely high. So it is basically because of insurance. The tankers that are passing at Strait of Hormuz are only tankers that are headed to China, which Iran allows. Iran allows its own and the Chinese tankers. Again, Iran is saying, if you have to buy fuel, which was being bought in dollars, is now bought in Chinese yen. So it is a geopolitical reorganization of the world, and Donald Trump is saying we can't stop the war. So if we can't stop the war, we need to organize ourselves and plan better. Is it the first time we are getting ourselves into such a crisis? No. We were with you here, Victor, in 2019, 2021, and we experienced what we call COVID as a world pandemic. And how did we deal with it? We put in measures to deal with that pandemic. Otherwise, let us not lie to the people and make people believe that the fuel crisis is local. It is not local. The way we're discussing about William Ruto and what have you, whatever Marvin is saying, Marvin, what happened during Deputy President William Ruto's time, it was political that time. We don't get our energy from Ukraine or Russia up north. No. It's a lie. We get it from the Gulf. Whatever was happening during that time, there was Russian and Ukraine war. And what happened is the global supply chain was interfered with, the entire global supply chain. Otherwise, what we get from there is mostly fertilizer and grains. Two things. That's what we get from the Ukraine. So the war in Ukraine and Russia can only affect our fertilizers and grain. But energy, in terms of where do we get our petrol, where do we get our diesel? We get it from the Gulf. This time, the war is in the Gulf. So political rhetoric can be discussed left, right, and center. Whatever who said, and where. Those ones are political rhetorics. But realistically, talk to economists, and they will tell you that we have a long way to go.
And that is the reason why, when they talk about balancing the act, and when you hear the National Treasury saying that they've exhausted, they have got limited options left, it's about the case of subsidies versus debt. Because according to John Mbadi, the CS, there are certain priorities, and even reducing the cost of fuel will also affect certain parameters of growth in the economy.
I think.
So let's talk about the subsidies versus the debt.
Not even the subsidies, before even you get there, the subsidies, and I don't even support subsidies. Because subsidies, at the end of the day, what happens with subsidies, we're going to pay it.
We're going to pay it,
it's not subsidy that you're giving for free. It is that to caution this particular time, temporarily, let's hold on. Probably we have the oil market and what have you. But at the end of the day, we still have to pay those subsidies. So I will not support that subsidy idea. I will want to go like this. The first thing, stop government wastages. There's too much wastage in government. And you know, Victor, we discussed with you here during the Gen Z revolution. One of the things that was raised, that opulence, government wastage, should be dealt with. I think by that time, there are things that we did. Remember, we had the First Lady's office that was scrapped. You remember
the Second Lady's
office. The Second Lady's office was scrapped, which were things that were wastages in government. What we need to do, what Mbadi needs to tell us, how much can he save in terms of bringing down government wastage, because government wastage is too much.
Yeah.
The guzzlers that we have in government, the SUV vehicles, some of them are heavy consumers are fuel guzzlers. What do we do with those ones? If we can deal with the traveling allowance, MCAs, ministers, why would, like for example, Madaraka Day? How much are you going to spend on Madaraka Day? We might be spending probably 3 billion or 2 billion, I don't know. But in case we can agree that the president should be in State House, address the nation from State House, don't have to go all the way to Wajir to do Madaraka Day with almost 70 ministers, or almost all the 22 ministers have to be there, and directors.
Being given per diem.
And all of them are being given. So we might be able to, if you like, in terms of expenditure, how much are you going to spend on Madaraka Day in Wajir? It could go to 3 billion shillings. If 3 billion, you know, we've spent, we've tried to caution the fuel problem with 12 billion for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
2 months, 12 billion. So if we can save, it is possible for somebody to tell us that, brothers, I can use this opportunity to save you guys some wastages. Let's cut here, let's cut here, let's cut here. And we have austerity measures. And that will caution the fuel. We have that money somewhere. What CS is saying that his hands are too tied. I think he's only talking about the levies, the 8 levies that are on fuel, that he cannot touch them, which I completely probably agree. But if we tame government, not even corruption, government wastages, stop these travel things. For example, the office of the Prime Minister, for example, the budget could be cut down kidogo. The office of the Deputy President, cut down the budget. The offices of ministers, and even just the movement of our representatives. We are overrepresented, you know that. And we are overrepresented by women reps in office, this number of senators. You remember sometimes when I think Sifuna was talking about that he has almost, is it 1 million, Bob, or 350,000 shillings, put in his account for a card to use the expressway. Those ones we should really check. We can really check those ones and make sure that we minimize on government wastage to cushion the fuel problem.
Let's talk about the global energy shocks versus the domestic public welfare. Because now, when we talk about the Strait of Hormuz, that is one. The global effect has got a ripple effect back home. How can the government, because at the end of the day, there has to be some balance, you know, to be at play. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'll bring you on board shortly.
Thank you.
Okay. But when you talk about the global shocks, the energy sector, whatever is happening, you'll realize the government has got a potential to predict what's just about to happen, all right? To predict what's about to happen and put some strong and good shock absorbers to the citizens. How do we hit this? Marvin?
Personally, as we say, as you've put it clearly, that the government actually predicts whatever might happen possibly in the near future.
Yeah.
And so we all knew that whatever is happening in the Gulf and in the Middle East could affect the prices, the fuel prices in the country. I asked you a question on why fuel in Algeria is 4 times cheaper than fuel in Kenya. You know, the government of Algeria, whatever they do is that they have fuel reserves, which means even if we have a crisis that will last probably for the next 5 months, then these reserves will be able to cover whatever was coming to happen in the next few days or few weeks. And so what we need to understand as a nation is that our government needs to plan for the future. We need to have fuel reserves in such a way that whenever such a crisis happens, then we fall back to that. My friend here put it quite clearly that we have wastage in the expenditure, especially in the national government. I need to remind him that currently, the current government has spent 10 billion in the State House, in the last three years, which is exactly what was used by Uhuru Kenyatta's government since 2013 to 2022. So it means if this government is going to be there for the next 2 or 3 years, even, the expenses are going to be very high as compared to what we saw in the previous government. So what we need to understand, what the government needs to do at the moment. Remember, we are being told that the government loses at least 800 billion Kenyan shillings in every financial year. Do you know how much 800 billion shilling is? And what can it do in the economy? If at all the national government, the county government, decided to end corruption, as we have always talked about it, these 800 billion shillings that get lost every financial year, it could be pumped into the economy to ensure that we have such goods, that is fuel and even other goods out there. But then 12 billion was actually put into the economy to ensure that fuel crisis was properly managed. If at all 800 billion, which get lost in the corruption, was put there, then we wouldn't be having such a scenario that we saw in the previous 2 to 3 days. But then Kenyan citizens need to understand that it is actually going to get even more tough. And so, as you said, we need to have that shock absorber. We need to tighten our seatbelts. And then, of course, fuel. Personally, I believe the fuel prices will even go higher to up to 250 Kenyan shillings and above.
We hope it doesn't get there.
It will.
Doesn't get there.
With the current government, it will.
It should be 320 now. It should be 320 now. If we did caution with the 12 billion and 8% VAT that was removed, the fuel prices will have gone much higher to 320 now. So the truth of the matter is that the prices that we have today are April landing prices, which went up by 20% for diesel and 10% for petrol. And that means that if the the May landing price goes up, which automatically will go up, that means that it will, even the 8% of VAT that has been removed will be will mean anything.
Okay. Before I take a break, Wakili, you realize that the sector players that say that they have 1 week to negotiate and to come up with some middle ground. Assume that there is no white smoke. Okay, we had white smoke yesterday, but assume that there is no white smoke at the end of 7 days. So what happens? Because a balance has to be found at some point.
I think that's a possibility that nothing much will change. And the possibility is because what the public lacked for me in the reaction that we had was merely information. When the public is prepared, is explained, because changes will be there, hard times will be there, and it will affect not only Kenya, but in the whole world. We had budgeted without projections of what that's going to happen. In law, we have ordinarily in contractual making, we provide for all that. For instance, something called an act of God or unforeseeable circumstances that come into play. That ordinarily happens. There was COVID, there could be El Nino, there could be interventions in ordinary life that interrupt a cause. When that happens, all you need is information. I think the public ought to have been explained continuously and persistently in order to be able to absorb the shock that would eventually come on account of what we call hardships. You see, the Oriental reaction that we get, that is ordinarily infused by emotion, is because I have no explanation that is relevant and logical that will fit into the jigsaw of the unknown. All right? The fear of the unknown then will ordinarily generate international psyche that then violates the consistent of security as we would want in the economy. So a pattern when established, waking up, going to work, and the salary is not adjusted such as then to cushion me on the lifestyle that I've led, so that then I can pay my school fees, I can do my ordinary planning that I have done. That disruption is what then brings the reaction. So when in that 1 week, one thing we expect is that information to be able to be put to the public of what is going on now in ordinary sense so that it makes sense to the public. Number two, it is possible that these interventions may not bring the fuel prices to where they were before this change. But if if the change is reasonable enough, such as that, then it is demonstrable that the ministry and the government has done enough to be able to cushion, you said adjustments have to be done. 2 shillings, 3 shillings, 1 shilling. Ordinarily, that's acceptable, and you will get a reaction because, remember, for instance, a Matatu operator pays a loan on a fleet of 20 vehicles cumulatively of the small additions that are there, that interrupts the very contractual obligation the person has to meet with the bank. And disrupts, obviously, the end user, who is the consumer who pays that Matatu fare. And the whole sector then becomes disrupted. So when the cushion is such that there'll be adjustments that are acceptable because they are cautionable, they are reasonable, and they're adjustable within the context of the livelihoods of the day-to-day user of the economy and the environment, that becomes accepted. So what I would think is that 1 week is a window that gives Kenyans, under Article 1 of the Constitution, to be able to take things within the context of negotiation on a table of the entire population to be able to be understood. And Kenyans all are asking is, we have not understood what is going on. And I think it's a good time.
What we can take home as we go for a break is clear communication.
Yes.
Because when there is no clear communication, even the good book says that at the beginning there was what?
There was the word.
Yes, there was word.
There was the word.
The word became God.
Exactly. So there was no word out there.
Yeah.
A clear word. Let's take a break. I want to serve you tea. Hello.
They include...
Courtesy of Arsenal. We'll break back. Stay with us. Yeah.
I know. Letting him pay made you feel bad. I'll think of a way to pay him back.
That's not it. I'm just mad at myself.
I'm gonna tell you these things, but you'll get mad. You're just too worked up.
I stood outside a door all day, looking at the same old scenery, never going anywhere. Our lives were once unconnected, but I couldn't help but look at the horizon and imagine what she was doing.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
All right. So here we are. Let's come back to this discussion. Okay. It's time for coffee. We are going to do this as we do coffee. Okay. So let's come back to this. The government is also saying that they are going to, that is John Mbadi, Minister for John Mbadi, that's Opiyo Wandayi. They joined government as experts, and they say that they're going to support a regime under the threat from a Gen Z uprising. Now, gentlemen, when an information is not clear to the public, let's come back to where you've left Wakili.
Yes.
When an information is not clear, the same way this can happen, chances are the government or the sector players are aware of what's going to happen in the next 1 month. But some of the sector players are also saying that, why can we have a predictable, platform where if there is an increase in fuel prices, that we can easily predict it, so that when it comes, we don't find ourselves with that kind of a culture shock that we found ourselves in last week and this week. Oscar.
Yes, one thing that Wakili was discussing here was political communicative language. And off the camera, he was comparing how we dealt with communication during COVID times. You remember we had the president, we had Magoha, we had Mwangangi, and we had Dr. Moth, who will come in our televisions and display and explain to us why we need to stay at home during lockdown, for example, which is very good perspective from what we're saying. But I also have to appreciate that these experts, John Badi, Wandai, Murkomen, and Chirchir yesterday, and the whole 3 days, the way they've acted has been better, because now we are coming to see at least cabinet secretaries acting and communicating, no matter how bad it is, but they've tried to manage the emotions. True. And you could see the emotions from even when Wandai CS Energy was doing a presser with the Matatu owners. You could see the emotions from the Matatu owners, but still the CS said, okay, we finished this one, can we discuss it tomorrow? So there was that empathy and trying to talk to the people that we are caught up in this. One good thing that happened during the last 2 days, the absence of Gachagua. That was also saved the country.
What do you mean?
Because he is the guy who brings in more fire to the thing. Again, the best thing that has happened...
We don't have to get political.
Can I finish?
Oscar, you've just said
I'm just saying the political podium. Yeah. And the good thing that has happened, for example, the absence of the president also. The absence of the president and the absence of Gachagua. Because also the absence of the president, Kidogo, at least we were listening now to Transport Ministry, David Chirchir. We were listening to CS Energy. Let the people who are in this probably explain this. Because at the end of the day, if you see, and we also listen to the Matatu operators themselves. You see, that because we can see the frustration. And you see the frustration of a working nation. People are walking down, and the Matatu also explaining that, guys, you are our clients, but the fuel costs as they are now does not even make sense to our business. So everybody had got to be listened as the shareholders. If we bring politics to this, I'm only worried that over the weekend, we can see people going again on top of SUV vehicles to explain to us on political podiums how the fuel increase has been brought about by political machinations. You know, it only brings more chaff to already a very technical thing that should be explained by economists and prepare them. And I've told you that June 14th, EPRA will announce another increase, for example. If they will announce another increase, now we should be able to be prepared, and we caution. And I've told you, let us tame wastages, let us use few liters of fuel, things like those ones, and let us see how we can save some money somewhere. But if we go political, then you can see what happened, and criminals will take advantage, and people will burn houses, and people will block roads, take advantage of the process.
Okay,
my friend,
let's talk about the...
Victor, my friend Omondi here said that the absence of the president and even the absence of the impeached deputy president Gachagua saved this country. But I can tell him that the presence of Karen Nyamu actually made it even worse. Tell me how a senator... Imagine, tell me how a senator in the parliament actually says that those people who are demonstrating, they don't have vehicles. I mean, these kind of fuel prices, they don't affect those people who don't have vehicles. What the members of parliament need to understand is that the current crisis does not only affect those people with vehicles. It affects every Kenyan, because all these services that we get them because they are transported from one point to another. And that, I mean, we have fuel being consumed somewhere. So the absence of Gachagua and William Ruto actually saved the country, but the presence of Karen Nyamu made it even worse.
Let's talk about the aspect of public crisis management. Because when it comes to, remember what happened last night, the previous night, when they had a press conference, when the CSS sat and gave an information, then immediately after, there was a rebuttal, which actually conflicted the outcome and part of the negotiation. Wakili, when you hear such, and when it comes to negotiation, there has to be a middle ground. And that middle ground happens in a boardroom. But Wanjiku is out there waiting patiently, 9 p.m., 9:30, almost 10 p.m., everything is at a standstill. But the crisis management does not come out so seamlessly for Wanjiku to have that sigh of relief after a hard day. So how can the government work on the crisis, the public crisis management, so that we don't find ourselves in such a situation where there is this back and forth between the Matatu sector players, we have got, the ministers, they are the representatives of the executive. That paints a bad picture.
Well, I agree with you, but my position would be this, that, Kenyans, we should react where it matters. I'll say this in this context. We have a problem, and we have a crisis, and we agree on it. We have people that we have elected to represent us. I repeat, I've said this on this forum before, and I say it now. Our biggest folly and our missing link is Parliament. Always. It always disappoints us when it matters. Yes. Look at the finance bill. It didn't have to go the way it went with the Gen Zs. They never listened. They went ahead, they never cushioned us. Again, in this instance, Parliament ought to be counted. It is not being counted, it is absent, and the best we see them are weekends instead of being the crisis solvers for the people who have sent them to represent them. You see, Parliament are individuals coming from certain communities that have been sent to represent those communities and speak for them. Act as if it is those people speaking in Parliament, but in absence of those people, because we can't go there in crowds. We can't assemble in Kasarani to pass resolutions, some technical, about how to solve fuel crisis. So when you budget and you say this is how we will run our economy through the budgetary process in Parliament, and then through, because that's a legislative process, and then you pass a law called a finance bill to become a finance act in a manner in which the economy is going to be managed. And Parliament has advisors, economic advisors on this. When it comes to an intervention and interruption of the budget that you have put that then interrupts the socio-economic well-being of the people that you represent, collectively and individually, Parliament has a duty to intervene. They seem to want not to interrupt that because it's unpopular, or they may make mistakes that make them unpopular. So the communication that you say is coming from executive, which has a trust relationship with the public on account of laws that are being made by Parliament. When I say, therefore, Kenyans should know where to direct the blame, is that we must blame those that then we see are mismanaging the economy. But we must blame that those are responsible for cushioning us from even that probably unwelcome outcome of the ruler and rule relationship. My point is this, that when you put an executive, the executive responsibility is in law, but the executive will want to go to the extent of self-preservation at all times. Then we've put a cushion of Parliament and members of Parliament, the instance of which are supposed then to be checkers of that executive persistently, consistently, insistently, continuously. That's your job. When you sleep, you wake up, that's your job. So when we reach where we have reached, where then we go to Article 1 and go to the streets, because then we think something is not well in government, and we complain loudly in the manner we are complaining, it is because we are expressing ourselves but bypassing the person who should speak for us, who is Parliament. And therefore, that's why I say that even in policy, the interruptive organ that is supposed to be the checker, that's supposed to take the laws and say we are going to remove a certain type of tax, we are going to introduce certain fiscal interventions, is supposed to be Parliament, because that is where the law is.
You know how Parliament is composed right now, both Parliaments, Senate and National Assembly. How should they act on this? Because before it gets to there, then Article 1 will be activated.
Believe you me, certain things unite Parliament. Certain things do not unite Parliament. But those that unite Parliament are obviously interventions that will favor the subsistence of Parliament as individuals. Those that are ordinarily the debate that we have today will not find its way in Parliament. And let me probably sum it this way, that it doesn't matter what the political formations eventually come to be. Fact is, you are beholden to duty to the people that you represent. And for me, if my member of Parliament said that for petroleum, for diesel, and for the ordinary life of the Mwananchi out there on paraffin, these are the interventions that we've made. I think that's more satisfactory than the debate that we have Kenyans debating with the executive directly without the intervention of Parliament.
I like how Wakili is bringing it. But what Wakili is talking about is ideal situation. How it ought to be. Not realistic position of how it is. For instance, how do you become a parliamentarian? You become a parliamentarian by bribing voters to vote you into Parliament. No. Where let me tell you. I'm talking about realistic position. Today, for you to become a parliamentarian in this country, you need a budget of probably 100 or 200 million shillings. Who the hell will go and work? Who the hell will go and work and get 100 million from their work? Like Victor, who is working here, get 100 million from their work and go and give off that money for free? Nobody. So people who get bribed, who have to bribe their voters, most of that money is stolen money. And now, if they get into Parliament, Parliament becomes a marketplace. In a marketplace, you're either a buyer or a seller. Either you will be bought or sold. So what happens with these bills? Why did we lose Parliament as the people's protector? It is because they serve the whims of the person who pays the piper, who calls. And that is how we lost Parliament. And now what Wakili is talking about, yes, these issues are there, Wakili. They know. And we've sat here with parliamentarians. And they always tell you that, you know, my parliament, I can't say this, I can't say this. I'm sitting in this position now, as just an analyst. I have the authority and level ground to speak what I want to speak. But if a parliamentarian sits here, he sits here to represent certain interests, which are able to pay, so that he can be able to go to the village over the weekend and also pay back. So it is something like a patronage. There's some patronage that goes down the line. So Parliament, we lost it, Wakili, as a people's protector's house. So in reality, we can only use these spaces like whatever we are doing here today. And that is why even in the fuel crisis thing, you've seen parliamentarians have disappeared. Call them tomorrow. Most of them will not even come here. Yes, because they don't want to participate in this debate. No. Because at the end of the day, they will say something which is against the executive, who represent them in certain ways.
That's a calendar.
No, what I'm telling you. What Wakili is talking about, that the truth of the matter is, these things should be discussed and conversed in Parliament. Why are we not able to converse and discuss them with the people's protectors, with the people's representatives? People's representative is that if Matatu Owners Association should not even go to the CS Energy, they should march to Parliament.
And that
is where the representatives sit.
And that is why
the CS Energy is a representative and appointee
member of Parliament. That is why Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro also wrote to the National Assembly for a special sitting. And one of the proposals is that such kind of products like fuel should be tax exempt. And that's now where Parliament comes in to anchor such kind of laws, whether it is going to affect the VAT, the levies that we have, the road maintenance levies and all that, all the 8 or 9 levies that we have.
What told you, what unites Parliament is individual self-individual interest.
Okay.
When they want to put their salaries up, when they want to have an allowance, it unites them.
Okay.
But when there's fuel crisis that affects the Wanjiko you're talking about, it divides Parliament, because some people, half of them or the bigger percentage, will be for or against the executive, not the...
Do we have national preparedness? National preparedness. Remember we had an oil refinery down the coast. Was it Changamwe?
It's Changamwe. Yeah.
Exactly.
From 2013.
Do we have a state where we have national preparedness as a nation? You talked of Algeria.
Yeah, sure.
And a week or so ago, the president talked about, going to Tanzania and bring another oil refinery, that we can have our own refinery locally here. I think it's high time that we also had ours.
But that is long term. We're talking about short term.
I'm also talking about that, yes. But then that's long term strategy.
Long term strategy. For example, you remember, just 1 minute. You remember when there was a Gen Z problem down here? Parliament rushed and sat down, and they signed that we bring in the military. Immediately. They were united in that. Today, if Wanjiko is suffering and is walking, Parliament should be able to sit down that, okay, can we sit down at 10? And at 10, let us pass this one so that we cushion the full prices. And EPRA will implement immediately. But those ones don't unite Parliament anymore because they are not representative of the people. They are accountable to the people who gave the money to go and bribe those people.
Because at the end of the day, there's that cycle of recovery and learning. And I want to talk about within 8 minutes. Marvin.
Victor, the president was in Tanzania recently, and we heard when he said that he had a conversation with the president of Tanzania, that is Samia Suluhu, about having a refinery in, was it in Arusha?
Tanga.
In Tanga, right?
In Tanga.
Okay, yeah. But then, in fact, he was lying because they had not had such kind of conversation. We saw Madam Suluhu actually openly claiming that they have not had such kind of discussion or conversation between her and the president. And so we've been having a refinery in Changamwe, but then it is no more. And that's why I said that the current government, they don't know the priorities that they need to put first. We are speaking about the parliament. The national parliament, I mean, that is the National Assembly and the Senate. Those members who are in that house, I must call them as crooked kind of members, because they don't understand the kind of pain that a common citizen goes through. As we said, if tomorrow they were having a session on the increment of their salaries, they'll have that session from 7 a.m. up to around midnight. But then we're having this national crisis on fuel. They are nowhere to be seen. Why? Because they have fuel allowances. For them, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow, they'll be on the podium. They'll be on those SUVs on top of the vehicles, discussing matters that actually they don't mean to Kenyans. So what we need to understand, we as Kenyans, is that, I mean, my friend here talked about how these people get into the parliament. They do bribe Kenyan voters. In the next general election, we as citizens, we need to understand that whatever the members of parliament makes us do, it comes to bite us. So in the coming election, we need to ensure that we have people of sound mind, people who understand what Kenyans are going through.
What about recovery? Because now, this not fuel adjustment will be there over every other month. It's going to be there, but there's something that we have to learn.
Yes.
What can we recover as at now, and what are we learning at the moment, so that we can have short-term measures?
Personally, as I said, first of all, we need to curb corruption. We are losing a lot of money in corruption. If we curb that corruption and then put these monies where they ought to be, then we would be having such kind of crisis, because, as I said, we would have had even reserves of fuel. And so, apart from that, we need to have information, access of information. Kenyans don't access information. The information is actually being held by those in government. So if we had, if the government actually cushioned Kenyans before this crisis, then of course we would have been ready for what is coming. And so we need to have access of information. We need to put everything clearly out there. Tell me how someone is being found with 500 million in pocket that is meant for fuel.
Okay. Wakili, the recovery process is part and parcel of public crisis management. How do we recover from this, and what are we going to learn out of this?
My take on that is that crisis management have two facets. One is the person who bears the most must be able to understand the type of pain that the person has to go through for what probably projected period of time, and what hope is promised to that person. So which means this, that when there's a crisis, you need to explain the people that crisis, and then tell them that the context will be in the next 3 months, these prices will go down because we put the following measures. We're waiting for the budget. We're waiting for this.
Detection and preparedness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty about that is then if I'm a bank and I have clients and the clients come to me to ask for adjustments within a period of time, for instance, on installments of payment of loans, I will then appreciate a negotiation probably to alter the contractual terms of, say, from 800,000 to 600,000, and so on and so forth. The other bit is, the problem is we live in a web of many sectors that when one is touched, it then replicates into all the sectors. For instance, fuel may be seen as fuel as part of transport alone, and that we are a working nation, as have been written, but it touches on every sector, including school fees, including investments, including production of crops in the shamba, and so on and so forth. That every sector is touched, because the cost of living then goes up. Now, when you therefore want to touch only on probably the levy on fuel, many other areas, for instance, and I've seen that, I think Kibaki's regime did that, you need to look at probably the interest rates with banks and look at what you can do there, and many other areas where then it is not just about the hope that you give to the people, it is the actual adjustments that as a government you make, so that then you not only cushion but be seen to cushion. And we say this in law, you not only do, you must be seen to do. For instance, the government is doing a good thing, but the fact that you don't communicate it, then you are not seen to be doing the right thing. So if you're doing the right thing and you believe you're doing the right thing, there's nothing wrong in bringing out to the public. So communication, I think, is the first place that we start.
Communication. Oscar.
Yeah, the last thing is, this is the first time we're getting into a crisis. We had COVID here, and you know what we did to caution everything to deal with COVID. We managed it very well. This crisis can be managed very well through what Wakil is talking about and other cautions. For example, the excess profits that oil marketers are making should also be checked. Open up. Let us know the formula, how we get to those prices. So we know who is doing what and how we can control everybody. Otherwise, the problem is that the cost of living crisis must be managed. How do you manage it? There are things that we need. Even for us to get 100 shillings to be sent for free through M-Pesa, those are because of the COVID time. We can increase those ones. And the small things that if we touch, we will be able to help cushion the households and cushion businesses. Because if these businesses close, we are all doomed at the end of the day.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, let's close it there. This is a very big topic, public crisis management, and that touches almost everybody. Marvin, thank you so much. Please tell the CJ that we need him on set.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
CJ Maraga, actually today we departing for Turkana, so we'll be having our first public rally in Lodwar on Sunday.
Okay.
Actually, the mainstream media has been denying us airtime. So ensure that on Sunday you are in Lodwar.
If you go propaganda way, then the mainstream media will get you.
You have been happy. You are part and parcel of the team, and you are here.
Yeah, sure. So CJ Maraga, he do appreciate because he understands where the country is. And so in the next few days, he'll be issuing a public statement on what is happening in the country.
Okay, we wait
so
for that.
Let us rebuild, restore, and regain this country.
Marvin Mabonga, you're taking my newspaper. Okay, so thank you so much for coming. Oscar Monja, asante sana, as well as Wakili George Kitu. Gentlemen, tumalizie hapo. Arsenal fans, tukutane pale kwa tent. Celebrations paka.
Oh yeah. That was a topic. 50%.
No, you are late. We discussed it and 22 years.
How many minutes did you give it?
We gave. No,
that's a whole 1 hour topic.
I don't know if
Arsenal.
Welcome back to Semana Spokes from Nagava.
Semana Spokes is the platform where Wananchi engage, query the government, and the government responds. It's your time to be informed. Don't miss Bonga Nagava every Thursday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Semana Spokes.
Hello, fabulous ladies. Welcome to the talk show that's all about sisterhood, empowerment, and unfiltered conversation. We will be focusing on women. We believe in women.
We are really changing.
We are creating a safe space for women to connect, thrive, and share.
Just because you're a woman on a bike, you're labeled in a certain way.
It's not just a talk show, it's a movement.
When they are standing, we need to stand out.
From heartwarming tales to hilarious adventures.
They could ask me, Catherine, why are you learning?
We're turning the spotlight on women who are breaking barriers in their individual fields.
You have to have a vision.
You are the leaders of Kenya today.
Keeping it honest and relatable.
Mental health is real.
Yes.
Where there is no communication, there is no relationship.
Join the sisterhood on KBC TV for Dada's Show.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tunaangazia upanzi wa parachichi na makadamia.
Lakini huwezi kusema ati utategemea hii peke yake kwa sababu sasa matunda ni kidogo. Lakini kama uko na ekaleji kubwa, makadamia inaweza kusaidia kwa sababu pesa iko.
Ungana nasi Jumamosi saa 10:30 hapa KBC Channel 1 kwa mseto kamili wa kilimo.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migo. We are glad that you are still watching KBC Channel 1. Now, today is International HR Day, a day marked every 20th of May. And the idea is to celebrate the impact of HR professionals, not only in Kenya, but also at the global level. And the theme for today is empower people to lead change. So we are going to look at that. Leading people through change. And I'll be having that conversation with Irene Kimashia, who is the head of corporate affairs and communication at the Institute of Human Resource Management. Karibu sana.
Asante. Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana, and thank you for making time. And also CHRP, David William Ochiel, who is an HR expert. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
Very okay. Thank you for having me.
Today is International HR Day. I'll start with you, David. What is the importance of celebrating this day? Why do we celebrate it?
Thank you. International HR Day is very important. It's normally celebrated on 20th of May every year, basically to recognize the contribution of HR professionals to the people, to the institutions, and to the society. Because many times you find when the people are not well treated in an organization, the strategy of organization may not be achieved. And more so as we look at the theme of 2026, which is to empower people to lead the change. So we find that as HR professionals, it's very important to recognize what they are doing and what they are experiencing in their workplaces to ensure that in this digital transformation, the AI era, and in the shifting employee expectation, is much recognized to ensure things go on in the right direction.
Yes. Irene, from where you stand, why is this the important, especially when it comes to the HR profession?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And let me start by wishing all HR professionals a happy International HR Day, including Mr. Ochelie, who is a member of IHRM.
Yes.
Like you put it, I'm coming from IHRM, which is a professional body of HR practitioners in Kenya.
Yes.
We are looking at over 20,000 HR professionals who are registered with us. So this is an important day, and it's a global day. It didn't start a long time ago. It started in 2019, just before the COVID era. But just to agree with what CHRP Ochelie is saying, beyond recognizing the place of the HR professional, it is also appreciating the role of the HR function in organizations, because the HR function shapes the culture of the organization. The HR function promotes well-being in the organization. It creates diversity. So it is to support organizations, appreciate, one, the HR professional as a subject matter expert, driving strategy in an organization, and also appreciate the place of the HR function in an organization. Organizations that are leading change, like the theme says, are having HR sit at the very strategic places in the organization, and that is what is making a difference.
Yeah, because when you mention HR, some people think of hiring and firing.
And we are here to disabuse that notion. I hope we will achieve that.
And when you talk about leading people through change, David, what is that secret that is there when it comes to leading them through the change that we are talking about?
Thank you. When you look at leading people through change, the main secret is that you must trust people before the transition is made. So the HR need to ensure that people trust their leaders before they are led through the process of change. Because when people do not trust their leaders, then they simply don't follow change because there is a circular, there is a law to be followed, but they need to understand why are we changing. So leaders need to explain very well to the people the reason why they need the change. So when people adopt that kind of understanding, then they'll be able to ensure that what the change is going to be there is for their good. But they also need to know what change will be there, what will change, what will not change, and what will need reskilling for them to adopt the change. That is very important as we get to this section. And then we realize that as an HR professional in the organization, you need to understand that the strategy that you are going to use to make sure that people change is not making people to change themselves. People don't like to be changed, but they want a situation whereby is the change going to be for their good or is not going to be for their good?
Why is it that people always resist change?
People basically don't resist change. They resist being changed.
Oh.
That's what people resist. I would give you an example. When I was working in the Ministry of Lands in the year 2012, we wanted to ensure that we have a digital transformation. So when we went to the database, we found out the people who were able to understand the computer and work with the basic technology were only 2%. So when you want people to change and embrace technology, and only 2% of them are able to do that, then they will not be resisting change, but they'll be resisting being changed. So what we had to do is to ensure that we train people on the basic digital technology. And once they embrace that, they really accepted the change, and that is how we were able to start transforming the Ministry of Lands to ensure that people are able to understand digitization in the Ministry of Lands. So people don't resist change, they resist being changed.
Okay, that's a brilliant way of seeing it from that perspective. Irene, you know, the change we are talking about, from where you stand, what do you think is the secret?
I'm not sure there's a secret, Mike. I just think with change, you have to navigate it. You cannot sit and say this is the one way to do change. But what is this that we're talking about when we say change? From the HR space, we're talking about a bunny world. We're talking about bunny, B-A-N-I. It's an acronym. We're talking about a brittle environment. For example, look at the global supply chain. What the conversation was just a few minutes ago, the impact of the global crisis in the Middle East and the impact it has on Kenya.
Yeah.
So we're in a brittle space. Secondly, we're in an anxious space. We are calling this the anxious generation. You know, the change is so much, you know, we cannot say we are managing it. We're just adapting and navigating the change. And that is where the skills that Mr. Ochele is talking about come in. Are your people having the capacity? Are they resilient to navigate this change? We're talking about non-linear. One small thing has a ripple effect on our organizations, and it's difficult to plan. And finally, incomprehensible. It's almost difficult to understand. How do you explain that somebody who gets a wage for the last 2 days did not manage to go to work, children did not go to school? That is the environment we are operating in.
Yes.
And we are talking about a human being coming with all these changes at a personal level into the workplace.
Yes.
So there is not one secret. We just have to, one, continuously build the skills of our employees so they're able to navigate the change, and number two, humanize the workplace.
Yes.
Ile maneno of wacha shida zako kwa gate, then you come to the workplace, then you will pick them up when you go home. That cannot work in the modern workplace, because I'm a human being, a complex human being. I have feelings, I have challenges. This morning traffic is, you know, yesterday we didn't have traffic, today it's everywhere. You know, so this human being is having challenges with their family or with their health. So you cannot tell them, leave your problems at the gate. It affects their productivity. So how do you create a work environment where there's psychological safety that an employee can say, today I am not well, I need support here. You know, are we building those workplaces? And that is a place of HR. And that is what HR professionals are doing to support organizations navigate change.
Yes, very important. I want to go back to something you said.
Just something to add on that. Care matters when change is happening. As an organization, how are we caring for our people? Because people have fears in between that when it changes, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be having a very bad condition for work atmosphere? So we must show that we care for them. And that's why the leaders in an organization must make sure that before any change is happening, they are able to be the agents of change. What people see in them, are people seeing are people that are trusted, are people that are caring, are people that are looking for their future. So once people have that confidence in the leader, then they'll be able to really adopt and see how to change, because they know change is good for them. And by the way, change is the only constant thing. So it's because the only constant thing that we must do is only important. The leaders do not use the opportunity to harass people so that they do what is not good for the people. But once people know that you trust them, you care for them, you mean good for them, the change is for their good, and you equip them adequately to be able to fit in the change, then they will definitely rejoice and move with you.
And that is very important, and I think it ties to something you said about people trusting their leaders. My question to that was, how do leaders now ensure that, how is that trust achieved?
Thank you. For trust to be achieved, one of the things the leaders need to know, the leaders need to have emotional intelligence. Are they intelligent enough to know how people feel? Just as my colleague has said, you find this is somebody who has left home. He has a family. He may have an issue in the family. And when he comes to the workplace, all these things are pushing this person down. So when they come to the workplace, how are we able to care for them? Because you realize in our workplaces, that's where you spend most of our life when we are not sleeping. Because you go home at 7, tired and start sleeping. In the morning at 5, you're waking up to go to work. So you find for you to be able to understand where you are working, it must be a situation whereby you rejoice where you're working. So the leaders must learn to speak the truth to the people they lead. They must learn to ensure that before they do any change, they make people learn what they're supposed to do with the change to help them help the organization.
All right.
And they must be very sure of the vision of the organization. Because if they don't know the vision of the organization, the goals of the organization, then they have no business being there. Because they don't fit as part and parcel of the organization. So leaders must engage the employees to understand the importance of the organization and how it's also working for their good. Because everybody comes that their good, the good of their family may be taken care of, and the good of their country.
Very important, very important. Irene, what is that one change fact that Kenyan employees must accept so that they can survive 2026 going forward?
Going forward. So, thanks, Mike. The World Economic Forum says that 4 in every 10 jobs will need new skills by 2030. We are shy of 4 years to 2030.
Yes.
So the one thing that is going to be a constant change is that we are dealing with a skill-based economy. It's no longer about you went to school, you got this degree, you have worked for this number of years. All those things are important. I'm not disputing that. But what are you able to do? If I give you some work, are you able to complete it? How efficiently are you able to complete that work? Secondly, we are dealing with a global space now. We are seeing a lot of movement from the global north. People coming to set up shop here for businesses.
Yes.
And we're also seeing a lot of locals, Kenyans, working for multinationals, whether it's remotely or even migrating there. So Kenyan workforce has to prepare themselves for the global market. And then the nature of work is shifting. We are now talking about remote work. We are talking about automation of the mundane administrative things. We're talking about technology. So for you to be thriving, for you to be relevant in 2026 and beyond, you have to invest in building your skills. Go to school, yes, get the credentials that you need, but it's competency-based. What are you able to do? Yeah.
Very important, because the world is changing fast.
Yes.
And now that you're living in the age of AI, you need to know what's happening, get your skills updated to match what is happening within the world. David, when you look at human resource management, are there HR strategies that you would apply in that regard so that we can drive the change that you're talking about?
Thank you, Mike. One important thing as we look at these strategies, we must start with workforce planning. When we plan for a workforce, we must know in the current workforce what skills and competencies do we have. Then we go 5-10 years down the line. What skills will be required and what skills will be relevant? Then we look at the gap. So once we know what we have today, we know what we need to require in the future. Then we look at the gap. Then that helps us now to know when we are doing recruitment, what do we need to look for? When we are doing promotion, what do we need to look for? When we are doing training, what do we need to look for? And that is critical for any organization, for them to survive. After planning well, then we need to strengthen merit-based recruitment and placement, even promotion. So we need to onboard the right people in the organization. When you onboard the right people, you're able to get the people with the right attitude, that you're able to train them on what you want. So when you train them on your strategies, they'll be able to accept and move forward for the organization. Do they believe in that organization? That is very important. And as they believe in that, then now you need to build a learning strategy. These people that have onboarded, let's say they're just from the university, somebody has done BCom, you brought them in the studio like this one, but they were not exposed to that. Once they have the right attitude, now you mold them to what you want. That's now where the management training comes in, the supervisory training comes in, and also the soft skills. How do they communicate? How do they interrelate? because they may be in a situation whereby nobody has given them practical skills, how to relate at the workplaces. And the soft skills are very key to ensure organization moves forward. So once now you train them on what you want, you package them on what you want, then you are building a culture of the organization. What do you want to see in this organization that you're building in? Then from there you need to look at what is the performance level of these people. So performance management, again, you must look at this as a way in which you are able to make people achieve the mandate of the organization, the goals of the organization. And as you look at the performance management level, the key results areas must be well defined, where people are able to sit with their supervisors, they discuss what they want to achieve, then the employee knows how his or her work level is feeding into the organizational long-term goal. I would give you an example of a common saying, that there are two people that when they were building St. Peter's Cathedral long time ago, two people were asked who were doing the mason work, why are you doing the work? One said, I'm doing the work to earn a living. And one of them said, I'm building a cathedral. So as a mason, this person had known that part of what he's doing is to build a great cathedral. And this now motivates somebody to work. So when somebody comes to work, are we able to make sure that their contribution aims to improve in the entire ecosystem? And now as we work today, as we celebrate the HR Day today, when we are doing this, we must look at when I'm doing something in my organization, as Irene is in the Institute of Human Resource, what is the institute doing for that to fit into the Kenyan goal, Kenyan Vision 2030 for development? One of the things you find, the foundations of this is to Kenya should have globally competitive human resource. So as Irene works, he's able to know, I'm building Ochiel, a CHRP, to ensure that his role fits into the the Kenyan market. Then we look at the agenda, Africa Agenda 2063. What does it aim to do? We need a well-trained human resource which are globally competitive. So Irene will be able to do that, fitting my aim into the Kenyan market, into the global market. And that fits again into the SDGs. When we look at labor market, labor practices, we are looking at people who are technology savvy, people who are reformed, and people who can shape the world. So when I'm able to look at my role in organization in terms of performance, how I'm helping our organization, I'm helping the country, I'm helping Africa, and globally, then that motivates somebody to work. And maybe finally on that, I would talk of building succession management and leadership. One of the things that we've lacked so much in our organizations is not empowering the people for leadership. Look at even today in Kenya. Are we sure that we have the third, fourth, fifth people who can lead us in the organization? So when we are the leaders of today, we must prepare people, because our success should be judged by how we mentored people, how we encourage people, and how we are able to make people do the right thing. I normally sometimes say that when you look at this man who was called Jesus Christ, he invested in 12 people. Then he made 3 to be very close to him. Then after that he went back and said, I finished my work. He never came to KBC. But we still have Christians here today. Why? He said, I finished the work. What did he do? He invested in the right people by saying, the things you have seen me do, the things you have heard me say, go and do likewise, making disciples. So leaders of today, we must be able to make disciples. And we should be judged by how disciples are capable of doing what we are. That is how great leaders are marked. So when we do succession management, then Irene and I will not have a problem when some people, when they retire, we have to change the locks of the office because they know where to leave. They feel the only people who can lead, which is not correct position.
Yeah, the office will collapse.
The office will collapse.
They don't
so
go for
the
leave.
office cannot collapse. We must train people to show that when we are exiting the service, we are exiting the organization. The organization should go to another higher level, even without our own. And maybe finally, in the system that we have today, we must be alive to digital transformation. There's no two way. Today we have the AI, we have data-driven, and we must be able to learn. That means we must have a strategy which is going to ensure we are continuously learning to ensure whatever we do, we are looking at the future. Because if we don't look at the future, we stand the risk of lagging behind and being overtaken by all that we require. And finally, as an HR professional, we must ensure HR must have moved to the strategy of the business. I must know where I'm working. What is the core mandate of the organization? Then as an HR, I get them people that can fit in their strategy, can fit in their goal, so that as an HR professional, I become a business partner. I become a person who is able to make them that the organization can achieve its mandate, provide the service, and not just be a cost center, but a productive center that helps the organization with a vision of looking at how does it fit into the African 2063 agenda and the SDG goals as we celebrate this day for the HR.
Very important, very important. Irene, when it comes to employee confidential information, how do you handle that, especially when transparency is expected?
Okay. Thank you, Mike. I'll piggyback on the conversation about trust. Let's start there, because transparency builds trust. And for you as a leader in an organization, you need to cultivate a workplace that promotes transparency. So how do you do that while still protecting the confidentiality, which is critical, especially in the HR docket? One, you have to segregate who has access to what. Whether you're using a system, whether it is sharing of information, whatever information senior management has, there's a cadre that should not have, so that we have some level of control. Secondly, you aggregate data. You know, you can say 20% of employees want to work remotely. You do not say Mike and Ochiel are the ones pushing for working remotely. So you have to be clever. You collect this information, whether it came from one person, you have to look for a way to package it so that you're protecting the identity of the people who are sharing that information. Even for whistleblowing, you don't want to go sharing information about people. And then thirdly, you have to have clear systems and policies. These ones you can share openly so that somebody knows if you're having a promotion, this is the criteria. These are the requirements that I should have met. This is how the processes are done. If it's a disciplinary issue, these are the stages, so that everybody knows that I was treated fairly. The process that Mike went through is the process that David went through. It's a process that Irene will go through. But when you're not clear with systems and policies and processes, then you leave room for abuse and unfair treatment, because depending on the relationship I have with Mike, depending on whether I like David or not, then the approach, because we're human beings, you are open to bias. So you have to have clear policies, you have to have clear processes that are open and known to everybody. Thirdly, which is also linked to leadership and trust building, is being honest. Communicate to people. Tell them, I have up to this information, or we cannot share this kind of information for 1 and 2, 3 things. There are even laws in Kenya, the Data Protection Law of 2019. So you have to safeguard these things. So it's a tricky balance between being open and transparent, communicating with clarity and consistency, building the credibility as a leader, so that the people know when Mike says this, he gives me his word, he means it. You know, his word is his bond, and not having room for unfairness, room for individuals making their own judgments. So processes, policies, clarity and consistency, and also anonymity. you can safeguard some of this information and still have transparent processes.
Yeah, that is very crucial, especially when it
Just
comes-
something to add on that.
Yeah.
There is usually what we call the need to know principle, which is very critical, that we need to know. That the confidential information should not be shared should only be shared with the people that have a role to play in it. We don't give it to everybody. Because that's why Irene is saying at certain levels, who should get this information at this level, level 2, level 3, so that we ensure that this information can only be handled by a particular team of people. Remember, like now, let's say a country wants to go to war. You can't give information to everybody. We must know who is supposed to make the final decision and who should know what should happen. So in the same way, if we are going to make radical changes in an organization to make sure that we are able to exist in the next 10, 20, 30 years, we must know who should know what kind of information. But I want to say that confidentiality should never be used to hide unfairness. But transparency should never be used to become a public humiliation. It's very important. As we become transparent, we don't humiliate people.
Yes.
Because when you humiliate your staff, then they coil and you don't get the best from them. So again, it boils back to trust. Do the staff trust you? Do they trust the leader? Do they trust the supervisor? So once you do that, whatever you share, it will be used in a way that makes people succeed in life.
Very important, because that brings me to my next question, where how do you keep the human in human resource when systems are shifting, David?
Thank you. We must remember that technology is just a tool. It doesn't have a conscience.
Yes.
So because it doesn't have a conscience, whenever we are working with tools, we must ensure we allow the human conscience to prevail in every circumstance. And as we do that, we must ensure that human oversight remains the core in every organization. We go digital, we have everything, but we ensure that human oversight is still there so that we don't lose. We normally say that we can use the human intelligence integrated with the AI. So when we integrate human intelligence, it makes things flow much better.
Yes.
Because you find as an HR, when you look at the employee data, how do we handle this? I'm handling medical data. If I go and tell one of the employees, so and so is having this kind of a condition. If we look at this case where HIV was still a stigma in Kenya, then you find when somebody knows that, instead of relating with me as an employee, they'll now stigmatize me. And that will reduce productivity. So we must handle data very carefully so that we don't make people be humiliated with what people know about them. So the human face runs the organization. And that's very important because as we move along, the future of HR is not in human versus digital. It is in the human-led digital transformation.
Augmentation.
Yes. So that it is the human being that have been well-trained, skilled, reskilled, and unlearned to ensure they work up to what is happening. I'll give you a good example. If you go to Standard Chartered Bank today, when they wanted people not to be giving so much, withdraw some little money, then they put a system whereby for you to go and withdraw the money, you can only go 100,000 and above. Any other thing, you must go through the ATM machine.
Yes.
And then they even put the soldiers that are there are trained that when you don't know and you're a professor, they'll guide you. So you see, when you go there, you don't feel embarrassed. You still feel there's a human touch. to help you, guide you on the process. So technology must be led by human aspect. So that's how you make the human critical in every organization to make it what it's supposed to be.
And technology can never replace a human critical thinking. That within that capacity. Irene, when you look at stuff, sometimes the things that happen within an organization regarding change, and there is some level of staff resistance. Is staff resistance a hurdle to be cleared, or a signal to be had?
Okay, allow me to say something small about the technology and how to make it human. The one thing that technology will not do is read context.
Yes.
Yeah, so a human being is able to tell what is, you know, this thing of body language. Mr. Ochiel here has sat in recruiting panels, and you look at somebody and you're like, this person is not a fit. And you really cannot put a finger on why you feel that they're not the right fit for the organization. So that ability to read context, that ability to make human judgment is something that technology cannot do. And a joke is made that garbage in, garbage out. AI is artificial intelligence. So if your role and your abilities do not require intelligence at the moment, then AI and systems may not be a challenge. That is on a lighter note. Yeah, so the AI, this fear that technology is going to replace human beings is not the case. It's really going to enhance human output, because then you move away from the everyday administrative roles that can be automated, and you get into using your intelligence for creativity and for other things. Now, getting into staff resistance, whether it is a hurdle or a signal, I believe it's a signal. It is feedback. You know, in communication studies, they tell you even silence is feedback. It's communication. When you talk to somebody and they are quiet, they have communicated. They didn't have to open their mouth and say something. If they have not responded, that is clear communication. They do not want to be part of this conversation. So one, it is probably showing you the areas they have not been communicated to clearly. There are things that they are still not clear about with this change that is coming. And that is probably why they're resisting. Mr. Ochiel said people do not resist change. They resist being changed. So number one, is it clear? Do we understand what is being changed? And why is it being changed? What is my place in this change? Will it hurt me, or is it for my benefit? What is my role in the bigger picture? Number two is probably a sign of fear. Yeah, people are afraid about change. What does this mean for me? Will I lose my job? Will I be changed to a different department? Am I capable? The imposter syndrome, or can I do this new role, and all that? And then thirdly, it could be a sign of a promise not kept previously. You know, it's an issue of trust. Can I trust that this leader, whatever they are saying, is going to be the truth? If they say that nobody is going to lose their job, are they really being honest? Or something will change along the way? If they say I will not get a pay cut, or if I get a pay cut now, then in future when the business is doing better, then that is going to be reviewed. So is it a promise that has been broken before, whether by this leader or another leader? So it is always a signal. It is feedback. And for the leadership that is leading change, then you should take this as feedback, interrogate it, as opposed to seeing it as indiscipline or, you know, resistance. People don't want to embrace the new way of doing things, and allow them some time also to adjust. Change is not something you wake up in the morning and say, you know, we have changed. Or people will tell you, Mr. Ochiel has experience in HR. It can take 3-5 years to change a culture in an organization, or even to just drive in a new way of doing things, or even the technology he was talking about. To date, we still have Huduma centers, and there are people who are struggling. They have to go to the chief first and to another person before they are sent to the Huduma center. So change is really a journey. So you have to pace yourself, because it's a marathon as opposed to you know, those short races, so that you allow people to also adjust mentally. And once the adjustment is there mentally, then they're able to embrace the change.
Yes, and you have rightly put it.
Just something small to add on that. Not all resistance is bad. Sometimes resistance may be revealing some risks that the management did not see. So when we look at resistance, we should look at it from both sides. What is it that we may have learned from people resisting? Just as she's rightfully put it, Irene has rightfully put it, sometimes we find when we were making this change, Was it the right time? Was it communicated well? Were people involved? Were people prepared? Were people trained enough to understand what they are changing? What are they standing to gain in that kind of change? So when all those questions are well answered by the management, then you'll find resistance is lessened. So when we see resistance, it's good as leaders, it's good as HR professionals to understand there is something that we need to do much more than what we are seeing.
Yes.
And in an organization, that is the key role of the HR. When people are resisting, are they able to know what are the underlying soft issues that they should be able to tackle? So when they get to learn that, then they'll help organization to move as a team. And that's why sometimes it's good you start with the few change agents who gets the idea. After getting the idea, then they are able now to roll it out to the other team members. Then we are able to roll it to the entire organization. So target a few influential who have the organization goal at heart and then manage them so that they're able to influence the others. Because when you influence change, it is readily accepted. But when you force change, resistance will be very high.
And how much truth should a leadership share when it comes to, especially during a transition, how much of truth should they share during that time? David.
Okay. When you talk of truth that leaders should share, one thing I would say that leaders should share enough truth to earn the trust.
Enough.
Enough to earn the trust, while respecting confidentiality, the law, the legislation, and personal privacy. That is key. Because when you share what somebody feels that is not be known by the public, then they lose trust in you. And when they lose trust in you and the organization, performance will come down and the organization will not be able to achieve their objective. Again, you'll find employees need to know what change is happening. What is the expected impact of that change? So once they're able to learn that, then they're able to adjust on what is happening. So we must ensure that as we share the truth, we ensure the trust still is bestowed on the management by the employees. And the worst communication, I would say, for example, is you tell the staff, nothing will change. That is not right. Because when you tell them nothing will change, then they see somebody is sacked or somebody is retrenched. Then they take you now as a liar. And then the trust goes. And you realize it may take so long to build trust over the employee, but it takes a second to lose it. So we should try as HR professionals to ensure the trust is built, maintained, and nurtured as we go along. Then silence is not neutral during change. Some people would decide to keep quiet. In a major change time, we cannot afford to keep silent as HR professionals. We need to, because when you keep silent, you're creating a vacuum for grapevine and lies to come in, because anything will fill it. So we need to ensure that we dispel rumors by giving truth in bits. There is something that is very common. Irene and the mothers know. When the child is very young, you tell, where did you get the child from? We bought the child. You just give them enough. Why am I saying that? And sometimes you don't give more information before people are able to comprehend. So at the same time, when you also give information to the organization, you look at the kind of people that you have. I have the support staff. I have maybe the managers. I have the top leadership. So what should they know at a particular level? And once you do that, you'll find people will clearly understand and support the organization.
Allow me to end it at that, but I want to give you each 30 seconds, because we are out of time, to give your closing remarks. 30 seconds each. I'll start with you, Irene.
All right. Before my 30 seconds, please just allow me. Human beings do better when you tell them the truth. So the natural instinct is for you to hold on to information, but even as you communicate the truth to the extent that you're able to, also indicate when you are likely to know more information, and then you can communicate that to them. As a closing parting shot, for me, is to emphasize that the HR profession in this country is a regulated profession.
Yes.
That means that there exists a body of knowledge that anybody who is practicing HR needs to have. We have what we are calling CHRP. Mr. Ochiel here is a certified human resource professional. So for employers out there, if you want a HR professional who is going to lead change in your organization, who is going to promote diversity, who is going to help you build a culture that you're going to thrive despite the changes that you're faced in the environment, then you need a competent HR professional. And this HR professional needs to be a member of IHRM. So I welcome each one of them to join us at IHRM and wish all HR professionals a happy International HR Day.
Briefly, David.
Thank you. As we mark this International HR Day, my message is that change should not be something done to people. It should be something done with the people, so that people are involved in it to create that trust. Technology will change, structures will change, and jobs will change. But the need for dignity, the need for trust, the need for learning, the need for fairness in organization, the need for good leadership will never change. So as we go forward, all employers communicate honestly, train deliberately, and lead humanely. To all employees, keep the future of work that needs technology and adapt to the technology, because we need to work with civility, courage, agility, and wisdom.
Thank you so much. The gentleman talking is CHRP David William Ochiel, who is an HR expert, and also been talking to Irene Kimashia, Head of Corporate Affairs and Communication, Institute of Human Resource Management. This conversation ends now, but we had a talk with our colleagues from the HR department, and we shall be giving you about their day, something about their day in office as we celebrate them today, which is the International HR Day. We'll be bringing you that after this short break. Stay with us.
Letting him pay made you feel bad. I'll think of a way to pay him back.
That's not it. I'm just mad at myself.
I'm gonna tell you these things, but you'll get mad. You're just too worked up.
I stood outside a door all day, looking at the same old scenery, never going anywhere. Our lives were once unconnected, but I couldn't help but look at the horizon and imagine what she was doing.
Waswahili siku zote wasema fumbo mfumbie mjinga, mwerevu atalifumbua.
Wewe hata ukiniangalia ni wewe ninaambia. Wanaume wa siku hizi wabadilika kama nguo, wabadilika kama viatu, kama ufagio umezeeka.
Utapata kama venye teknolojia sasa hii imesambaa kila mahali. Utapata vijana baada ya kuingia kwenye simu zao wanaenda kwa hizo simu zao, na kuna filamu huko hadi zenye hazivutii.
Maajabu na miujiza. Funika kombe,
mwana apotee.
Mwana apotee. Tazamaji, funika kombe, mwana haramu apite.
Nina ngozi. Mayai yana nini?
Kikwada ama ugwada.
My name is Violet Araka.
My name is Marcelina Mwadime. I prefer Mwadime though.
My name is Millicent Akoth Kipelian.
I'm Yvonne Adija.
My name is Lucy Kubai.
My name is James Ogola.
So my day normally starts with, I get here, I first check on my emails in case there are very urgent things to work on. In case I left with matters pending from the previous day, then I will start with that, then I check on my email.
As recruitment as it is, I will get the specs and draft the adverts and ensure that they are posted. And in instances where I'm not drafting the adverts, I'm either organizing for a shortlisting, panel or coordinating interviews.
So when I am at home, I am a woman, a wife, I am a mother, and I have to take up my responsibilities as a mother, as a woman, and when I'm at work, then I am an employee. I have to observe the working hours as usual.
HR is the best department. Dealing with the human being, it is the best thing that anyone can ever wish to have, because at the end we are serving God. We are serving God, and the only way to serve God is through rendering the services to the humanity, and service to humanity is the service to God.
I chose HR as a profession because I'm passionate about people and workplace culture. I believe HR is more of building strong and passionate relationship among the staff, solving their issues, and also supporting them so that we create an environment that we can grow both the staff and the organization as well.
I love working with people. And I believe that HR is the heartbeat of every organization. And therefore, when you work with people, when you motivate them, when you support them and empower them, then the organization will definitely succeed. That is why I prefer working with people, because they're the heartbeat of an institution. And without them, there is no institution.
Working in a public institution is quite enjoyable because you have to really, you learn a lot. I have learned a lot. I've had a lot of experience since I started working. And I also enjoy the fact that we deal with people from other public institutions, and that gives me a wealth of experience in my...
Working in a public institution has taught me to follow procedures. Yeah. In public institutions, we have procedures that we're supposed to follow and protocols. There are things that we can't do as HR that probably other people in private organizations can do.
In the world of AI and HR, things are changing. You realize that most jobs may be overtaken by AI. But as they say, it is not the AI that will come and overtake the job. It is you as an employee or an officer who refuses to catch up with the world that will be replaced by AI.
God is in the detail, because I know that every part of my life, God is in it. And whenever an employee comes to my desk, I appreciate the fact that they will see the fact that God is in the detail, and that encourages them. And just to mention that this was a gift from me, from one of the youngest colleagues in this department.
My best day is every day. Every day when an employee will come and just to appreciate, just to say thank you, either for something that you assisted in, or an advice you gave, or just something.
One of my best days is when you receive the interns and attaches, and especially interns. These are young professionals, very inexperienced, fresh from college, but they have joined you. And they come with high expectations. And you're here guiding them and telling them what to expect. And some of the expectations are not realistic from them. And you tell them, you know what? At the workplace, it's not the same as college and other places. It is like this, like this, like this.
The best day that I had in office at the time that I was surprised by my colleagues, the HR practitioners and my fellow colleagues. It was during my birthday. Then they just came and surprised me with a cake.
Worst days are when we receive news of passing of colleagues. Yeah, those are our worst days. Personally, my worst day, yes.
HR is a noble cause. And as long as you are people-centric and you are eager to solve problems, because in most cases we will deal with very difficult situations, problems, and as long as you have the muscle and the training, yeah, I'll say it is a very noble career.
HR is a fun profession to work in. Yeah, we get to deal with people, you relate with people, we work with people, we meet with different kinds of people. And in the process of working with HR or working in HR, you get to also understand other roles in other departments.
As long as they are passionate about dealing with the people, workplace culture and serving people, it's a good thing. Like, wakuje tu tupambane.
Be the best version of yourself. It is not about perfection, it is about progress. It is about living intentionally and responsibly. It's about growing every day.
International HR Day is for all of us. It is not just for HR practitioners. It is for the entire workforce. So it is our day, all of us.
I'm wishing everyone, all HR professionals, all aspiring HR professionals, happy International HR Day.
I would give my final word to the employees of KBC, just to let them know that we love them, we appreciate them, we are there to listen to them, and we will support them every time. We are always there to support them.
And on that same note of leading people through change, this segment of Women at the Forefront, we want to look at the journey of one Damaris Dungwa. She's an organization development strategist and also HR ecosystem builder. We want to just understand her journey to the forefront of regulatory credibility and strategic governance. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Mike, for having me. Very well.
Yes.
Yeah, hope from the Mandamano, peaceful. Yes, and happy back to work.
You must give it to the country for its democratic space.
I know, yeah. It's a right for every citizen.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's get back to the conversation now. Yep. For a person who is meeting you for the first time this morning, if you are to explain to them who is Damaris Dungwa, what has this journey in HR, organization and development look like for you? How has it been? Describe yourself in that regard.
Thank you very much, Mike. And let me say, first of all, happy International HR Day for all the HR watching today, this morning, including HR leaders. My name is Damaris Ndungwa. I am a leadership, culture transformation and organization development expert or consultant, if you like. A space that I've been in the last, I think, over a decade, around 16 years right now, helping organizations to be able to figure out and build high-performance cultures for organizations, enabling people in organization to be able to drive performance and therefore institutional growth. I am also a certified HR practitioner, and it's our day today. We are very excited and happy about that. I am also a member of the Institute of Human Resource Management in Kenya. Irene earlier call professionals also to be members is very critical. And of course, I'm also the curator of the commonly called 3D culture core model, a culture transformation, end-to-end transformation for organization, especially built for Africa. That's a whole different conversation. But I am also a board director. And of course, recently I've been recognized as among one of the 50 most influential women in Kenya for various works that we do. But currently, I serve at Blue Concepts Africa as a lead or director in organizational development and culture transformation. And this is an organization that is driving some of the most transformative leadership and culture transformations, helping leaders in institutions to build high performance cultures for people, for organizations, for Africa. But let me go back to a very interesting kind of question tag that you put there.
Yes.
My journey in HR and organizational development and all this, space and how it looks like.
Yeah.
You know, Mike, when you talk about terms like organizational development, culture transformation, they sound so big,
complex,
very corporate, yeah. Terms that some people think they're just corporate jargons. But my journey rather started in a very simple manner, born out of, I think, curiosity for how people function and work. And the first time I went into an organization, my first job, I used to be very amazed and mesmerized about some things that I thought they don't make sense. Like, for example, you get somebody who gets employed into a role, and within 12 to 26 months, this person has moved in like 2-3 roles. Very impressive. It's growth. While at the same time, in the same organization, you get someone who is perpetually complaining, has stagnated like for 4, 5, 6 years, and these are real things. They are resentful and completely disconnected. I mean, that didn't make sense. I was wondering what is really the motivator?
Yeah.
And then you see also in our team, we are like hitting the targets, celebrating, which is good for a department.
Yeah.
But in the same place, the other department who we meet in the boardroom on Monday are completely demotivated, not hitting targets. But we get the same brief from the same leadership, from the same structures. So these dynamisms kind of created a lot of curiosity for me.
Yes.
And you know, and that time, and I tell you it's about 12, 14 years ago, even here in the media, I would see serious corporations launching serious strategic plans for their visions, big plans in 5 years. But I meet guys who work in those organizations and they don't look like that ambition. They seem to be, having agitating, dissatisfying issues about that organization. So what's going on? This created kind of curiosity for me that made me realize the more I worked in organization inside, I realized actually some and most of struggles that people go through, organizations go through, are dominantly and deeply human. Even before they become operational, because most of the times we talk about this operation performance, it's deeping, motivation, disengagement, very operational things. But when you look at it, and I know probably you've experienced this yourself, behind the low motivation, the frustration, the burnout, the politics and so on and so forth, is a set of people who are struggling or trying to be heard, seen, recognized, belong. And that's very critical when you look at that in that different perspective. It changes the symptom you're focusing on to the real root problem. And therefore, this led me into this journey of people business, organization development and leadership.
Yes.
And now that we are celebrating HR Day, International HR Day, with a very interesting theme that is about empowering people for change. I might as well say this.
Yes.
My last 10, 14 years, especially at Blue Concepts Africa, where I serve right now, I've been able to see that it's like an opportunity that I always am grateful for, to work with people who make decisions. And I talk about boards, I talk about executive teams, I talk about guys who influence how resources and decisions get to be made, even people on the forefront. And I'll tell you, and this is backed by research, that the people who hold power, who hold authority, and who hold control have 90% influence, like they shape how organization work is perceived and is done. And that changes, again, another dynamism, that who influences the culture and how employees work and the environment most. Then you see this set of people have defined as what we refer as the top management, the guys who make decisions. I like the way that the previous discussion touched a lot about that. And therefore, this also made me know when I am working within organization in my HR and organization development capacity, then there are certain drivers that shape policy, how decisions get to be made, and how resources, and these are critical on how organization functions. And this is what has informed my practice for the last 17 years in my journey.
Very interesting, because traditionally, when you look at HR or how it was viewed, it was seen as an administrative or support function. But then again, today, we are seeing HR leaders increasingly shaping strategy. They're shaping culture, as well as institutional transformation. From where you stand, what has fundamentally changed?
I like that question. You know, one of the shifts that has happened inside organization is a realization or the understanding that human issues are no longer soft issues. You know, the way we used to hear issues to do with absenteeism, presenteeism, yani mambo ya stuff. It's just soft issues. They're not like featuring in the P&L and commercial aspect of these discussions. But look at the evolution of human resources. You've stated yourself, you know, we've come from personnel management, you know, pre-industrial, I think it's that industrial revolution, where human beings in the workplace were perceived as just like another input in the process of production that needed to be managed. And we've moved from that to actually appreciate that this is human resource. There's a human element and dynamism into it. And look at for a long time, therefore, you see that HR was only expected to manage kind of, even in this context, processes, structures, sometimes called the custodian of policies and so on and so forth. But, you know, and this in simple terms in organization, you used to hear about titles like record officer or record keeping officer, or you hear someone like transport manager and administration. Those are very administrative roles. But now, when you look at the current workplace, you realize there's a lot of dynamism, evolution that has happened that requires the HR or expects the HR to influence business, to transit from operational routine to actually influencing business. And what does that mean? Influencing business, it means even the owners of the business, the leaders of the business, expect you to actually demonstrate in this resource, which is human, that we are investing on. How is it actually driving business? What is the input it is bringing into the delivery of the strategic inputs and intentions of the organization? And look at what is currently challenges most institutions. Just pick any random institution. What are the common issues that currently have in this organization? You hear things like mental wellness.
Exactly.
That wasn't there. You know, it is emerging issues. You hear about a very self-aware workforce that knows their rights, they know their freedom. You hear about technology emergent of need to meet demand at a certain level. Even employees have changed their own preferences, including customers. And this is an emerging kind of a space that requires a different kind of an HR. And therefore, you see, we have to now evolve in terms of skill. And that has happened because for you to actually even exist as a human resource manager, whichever facet you lead as a human resource, then it calls you to have to up your game in terms of competency and capacity for you to lead that workplace, to deliver the intentions of the business at that level. And then you begin to see HR moving closer to the strategy table. Not to be told like before, you know, Kitambo, you just used to be told, yes, this is what we need. You need to train the people. You need to, run with this kind of change, go implement, and so on and so forth. You kind of just bring reports. That's very different. You realize the intention now of you being in the strategy table is to be able to bring on this strategy table inputs that helps the business and the people.
In other words, you've gained voice within the boardroom. And that extends even to decision making.
Decision making, contribution, and you're actually responsible for the people or human resource. So what does that mean? There are like needs that the business need at a particular point. And the question is, are we getting the right people who have the right capacity to deliver what we need right now? It's very different. That is talent attraction. And culture has become very critical. How we deliver business and who we trust with our strategy within the organization ecosystem, responsibility of the HR. So therefore, what has changed? Number one, definitely the ecosystem has changed. The workplace dynamism is completely different. The expectation from the owners of businesses or the business leaders from HR has shifted. And number two is the need for efficiency enhancement, which is technology. You hear about AI. So we need what you call augmented kind of employees in the workplace. And that calls for HR to know what talent to build, who to bring on board, how to retain them, how to reinforce them, how to manage the talent, and so on and so forth. And therefore, the HR completely has to evolve, and definitely has evolved up to this moment, where we agree that we're moving to business strategy, development, enhancement from routine, because anyway, technology is taking the routine part of HR. And that really, let me also say that all these changes are sort of accelerating the transformation and evolution of HR, including the shifts that we're seeing in the workplace today.
Yes, very interesting. This segment, Women at the Forefront, we celebrate ladies and women who are making strides in their respective spheres of influence. Now, as a woman operating within in leadership, advisory, and transformation spaces, that I would say are sometimes often high-pressure situations. What has that journey taught you when it comes to influence and leadership?
I think I love the fact that you celebrate women first in this capacity, which is really good in encouraging women in this space. But let me say that being a woman in leadership and transformation space kind of teaches you resilience very fast. First of all, because sometimes even before you get to say fully your expertise, what you have to offer, there's a lot of evaluation already going on. Like, for example, the first one is the assessment whether you even belong in this room first. And I don't know whether that happens to men particularly, but let me speak for the women, because this has happened to me many times. I'll give you an example. Like last year, I was invited to speak into a certain board of, it's a university, so it's a council, it's called a council, which had management kind of retreat together with the council. And the way things are happening remotely. So you can actually bring somebody on board, you haven't seen, credibility is online, you share everything. So I was brought on board. And so this day comes, I just go on site and I get to the conference room earlier. That day, because I got there earlier. And I sit into a corner, I'm just waiting, because I'd been told about 8:39. The people will be in the room. So I get to my machine, just clearing my intro and so on and so forth, so people start coming. So I had 3 people who knew me, because 2 are in HR and 1 we have worked in another organization. So they come, they say hi, but I'm sitting doing my thing. So everybody comes, the NALNED fellows, the managers, the council directors, and so on and so forth. So the MC stands and he's about to open this kind of session. And the chair and the chair and VC are curious to know. In fact, the chair asked, do we have the consultant? Has she arrived? Because we're a bit late. I'm just seated on the corner, and I see the MC smiling. And of course, he had seen me. I've seen this person. So what does that tell you? I go into the session after invitation 2.5 hours later, and at the end of the session, I like just finding out whether people have learned or something. So I'm asking people what the session was like. And the first person to stand was the chair or the council. And he didn't stand, what shocked me, to say what he had learned, but to confess the kind of misconception that he had first about this. In fact, he got me schoolgirl. He called me schoolgirl, who he didn't understand, just got to master so much about organization and human resource and dynamism about culture. And that tells you where your question was, you're talking about the difficultness that sometimes women have. I don't know, for me, probably because of I don't have the height or the big body, which people anticipate, because I see that also a lot. So now, what then will make us go or has made us go progress a bit as women? And I'll tell you, over time, I have come to realize that you need to have your anchors. Anchors, right, correct. And for me, 3 things has guided me. And number 1 is clarity. Because having clarity has the power to influence and move people to action.
Yes.
I realize that. So clarity is critical. Number 2 is content, or credibility, if you like. You've got to master your own craft to a great deal, where people can actually trust and believe what you're saying and want to learn from you. And the third one is courage. You can double it with confidence if you want, because if you can have something great and just want not to talk about it in a confidence manner. And the most interesting thing is, if you lack the first 2, then you struggle with the courage part. That's one thing I've also realized. So I know for sure that women in leadership are bringing something very important into the workplace. In fact, there's something I like calling the human-centered kind of leadership. The ability for women to lead with firmness without having to lose empathy. And this is completely backed from research. I mean, we saw it during COVID, emerging women in leadership for countries. We see ability of women to lead with accountability, while at the same time not losing the people, you know. And people want actually authentic leadership. And I believe women, me being one of them, are bringing and shaping this kind of leadership that is particularly needed for organization and spaces today.
Let's dissect a little bit leadership and influence. From where you stand, from your experience in your endeavors, do you think, has leadership changed how women are perceived, or are we still having invisible barriers that are less obvious today?
I'll say we are not where we were before. We've made spaces, different spaces, whether it's in national level, corporate level. There's something good going on in terms of giving women opportunities to lead. And I'll tell you, statistically, we have about 23% now in boards, even in political leadership. You can see women, meaning that something has shifted. But while that is happening explicitly, there are those very implicit barriers you will have. I see that a lot in boardrooms, where you see the vocabulary of conversation in the boardroom, and you see, of course, women feeling a bit left out in terms of anchoring of even ideas within the space. And it cuts across. But one thing I've also shifted is the spiritedness that has come in the face of women. I am an HR, and I sit a lot in recruitment spaces. And you could see something different, like that belief that we have to fight 150% more is completely tipping off in some spaces, because people and young girls, you can see they are going over the board. Because of that belief that you aren't going to match against Mike. You need to be like 50% ahead of Mike. So now in the interviews, you see ladies who are extremely are putting themselves in front of them. But in terms of implicit biases, they're there. They're there, they're not subtle. You only meet them when the rubber meets the road, when you're in the boardroom, when you have to put yourself for leadership. And most institutions, like membership institutions, you have to be elected by members. Now when politics happen, you'll observe this dynamism happening. The dress downs because you're a woman. I would say we've made progress, but we still have a long way to go.
And when you look at influence, you know, many people associate influence with authority.
Mm-hmm.
Have you learned that influence requires a different skill set? Is that the mindset?
You're very right. In fact, there's something that is commonly called the soft power, especially in women leadership spaces. You do not have to put on your masculinity like a man for you to influence or to get things going or to get people to listen to you or even to drive a certain change initiative.
Yes.
And I think there are a set of skills that will always prove your leadership irrespective of what gender you are in. And talking about influence, it is clear set of build skills that somebody needs, because influence is being able to convince somebody from their standpoint of view to see where you're coming from and want to actually buy your vision and run with it.
Yes.
And that as easily as said, it's completely different, because you need to build that kind of set of skill, attitude, mindset for you to be able to understand. And that's a critical skill for leadership or effective leadership. And does that mean that you're shouting or you have to walk like a man to have that authority or influence? I don't think so. It's a skill that anyone can learn, just like men can learn. And I think I've spoken about one that I said has worked for me, is being able to articulate things with clarity. Because when people feel you communicate with clarity, you tend to influence people to move, because they know what exactly is in the vision, what it is in the journey, and what the outcomes they're getting. And therefore, what am I saying? It is it's beyond some of the common women-related biases. It's actually a skill that you build. Does it work for women? Absolutely, 8%. In fact, being able to influence people is one of the powerful skills. Because you don't need to be loud. You just need to move with confidence, with conviction, master your content and context, and people will believe you.
Yeah.
And they will follow you, and they will help you deliver whatever vision it is. Whether you're short like me, whether you're petite, amongst men, I've seen women amongst interesting careers like engineering, moving firstly and leading. Because of that kind of skill.
Yes, very important. Let's look at why organizations struggle with change. You know, many of them invest heavily in strategy and systems. But then again, they struggle with execution and sustainable change. My question to you is, from what you've experienced, where do organizations usually get it wrong?
I get that question a lot of times because personally I've spent a lot of time in change management. It's a very critical thing in organization. But let me tell you one thing. One of the things that I see most institutions, particularly leaders of change, that is a mistake they make, is the assumption that change is logical. Well, I've got news for you. I mean, change is not logical. In fact, 90% of change is not logical. And let me ask you something, Mike. Do you believe that exercising and healthy living is good?
Well, yeah.
You do?
Yes.
Do you exercise 3 to 4 times in a week?
Nope.
I'm sure if I ask you what are the consequences of not exercising or healthy living, you have a couple of those reasons. That's logical. It's statistics, it's data. But at the same time, it doesn't make you actually change in line with that data. And that's the most interesting thing about change. So you see in organization that we launch strategies, we launch new initiatives, we have rebranded, and we actually want now to run with this thing, and we actually want to imagine that our people, our staff, will take and move with it very fast. And hello, when you actually go down, you realize this is not as we anticipated. There is a bit of delays in understanding, too much back and forth, something that has been called by the earlier panel resistance.
Yes, staff resistance.
Exactly. So what is exactly happening? Change is over 90% emotional. There is a lot that people actually ask themselves, because change is first personal before it becomes corporate.
Yes.
And therefore people ask themselves a number of questions before they jump into your change. And you see, in the context of organization, employees would want to know where is this change actually leading us? I like the gentleman because he actually extrapolated that very well. Is it going to affect me? How is it going to affect me? Do I trust the person actually leading this change? Probably because of previous presidencies these people have had. And the more questions these people ask, it means that there is need for clarity. And the less you answer these questions, the higher you will experience what you call in change management, resistance. And resistance is one of the highly spoken about derailers of change. And we know statistically 70% of change initiatives fails. It also say that actually in Africa that rate statistic is higher. Because of other reasons, including borrowing models from the West and imagining they work directly here. So what is going on here? There are particular, understanding, approach, and kind of institutionalization of change that people need to actually be aware of, especially people leading change in organizations. And number one is leadership behavior. And leadership behavior, why? Because people will always observe what you do, not what you say. And if there is a gap about what the leadership is saying and what they are doing in particular in relation to this change, it fell from the onset. People won't buy that, they'll buy what you do. Therefore, it's very important to work first on the alignment of what leadership vision is and what exactly are they modeling or mirroring at that moment. Because that's where confidence and trust, number one, comes in. And number two is the context. Because change is very contextual. I mean, you might have seen in another media house the whole show, this room, the way it's painted, put, and you think actually you can actually come replicate it here. Well, it's about leadership. I mean, change is more about the people than the place itself. It's like the people where people say you can't go into Silicon Valley, get a very smart strategy on how to drive business, and just come copy paste it in a state corporation in the center of Nairobi. It doesn't work. It will just fail. So context is very critical, and contextualization is the specific experiences and needs for that organization that are known for the people, are known to the people, but it makes sense because people follow what they are connected to. And number three is, and by the way, speaking of context, it's where a lot of change management happens. You need approaches, you need models that help this particular context to actually implement. And you see, there's this assumption that also organizations make that because you're in leadership, you're the one leading change, you actually have the capacity to lead it, which is not true. The fact that I am the CEO doesn't mean actually I have the capacity for change management. And that assumption makes people, it's like you're being given a role that you're not equipped for. So what do? You either shy off and try to micromanage people so that you're in leadership, nobody wants to see your gaps or faults, and that affects the leadership itself. So the third one is, are you building the capacity for change? Including for those people who drive the change, even at the board level and so on and so forth. So what am I saying? These gaps, these very instrumental drivers for change don't exist, then you will fail. Anytime, including the reinforcement systems that you put. You've rightly spoken about sustainability of that change, which is another very big challenge that institutions have, whether they're driving organizational change. Because sustaining change doesn't mean, we had a very nice kind of transformation workshops and process for 1 year. But if we miss to embed that change into systems, because systems is what remains as anchor, delivery continuously of that change. We failed because that's what goes beyond the change phase. So change is extremely not logical. It is emotional, and it follows a structure.
And you've said something very, very important. Change is more about the people than the place itself.
Exactly.
And I think it also touches on matters of leadership and culture. You have spoken about leadership behavior being one of the biggest drivers of culture within an organization.
Absolutely.
So how much influence does leadership behavior have really on organizational performance and people management?
Very big. I feel like saying this statement with all due respect. And I want to give you a very particular example I know most people will relate to. Leadership behavior, actually, I said, influences 90% of our, even the perception about work and what will be done. Let me give you an example. Not long ago, the US got Trump as the current president. A completely dynamism and style of leadership, right? As that influenced how that state used to be led, the focus areas in terms of policy, as that shaped global kind of policies as well, impacting different segments of this world. It is, right? So you begin to see what it means, behavior from the top officers or people with power and control to the rest of the organization. And people underestimate that. We see that even, you know, locally. When we have a new president, there are key things that you see change, and we completely are looking in a totally different direction. Because of the decisions, of the policies, of the influence on resources and the direction in terms of mandates that people move, including institutions and frameworks that they put in place. So yes, leadership behavior actually shapes culture than even strategy can ever do. It defines culture every time. Let me give you an example. We have what you call values in an organization, right? I'm sure if I ask you the core values of, you know, KBC, you will tell me some. Just like in every organization. But every time I work in an organization, and by the way, values are critical because it's the backbone of any culture. Because all behaviors are sort of anchored by values or otherwise. Yeah, especially if you're not intentional about the culture. They'll come from somewhere else or another inspiration. But if we say, for example, here we value collaboration, it's a value, right? Because we want to see synergy within Department A, Department C. But wait a minute. When we see leadership moving to reward people, we are seeing them rewarding, you know, single contributors or individual contributors. Somebody who just did something excellent. What are they doing? What are they saying? We actually don't value collaboration. You just do your thing, stay smart, we'll reward you. Do you think people will actually even mind about being collaborative?
It doesn't even encourage teamwork.
Of course, no. Now, me, I just move where the inspiration is, because who doesn't want to be rewarded? Rewarding is a reinforcement for desirable behavior for the organization. So you see, leadership behavior is in the decisions where you put resources. It's like when you say, we have this common one in HR, that human resource is the biggest asset of the organization. But if you want to know that, look where the most investment of the organization is going, who is being rewarded or where is rewarded, and you will know whether it is. In other words, leadership behavior is what actually informs the culture. In fact, sometimes we say it is actually the culture. Because once we say we respect time, and we see all our bosses actually show up in meetings on time or before time, then you see alignment. And what does that do? People have no choice, because people always follow the behavior of those in power and authority, not what they say, but what they do. So you begin to see the strength that leadership behavior has. There's a principle in organization development, we call it the leadership shadow effect. When you look at your organization structure, all those leadership roles there cast a certain influence in the people they lead. Of course, there is intensity and strength of the shadow depending on where your position in the organization. Like, for example, the influence of the chair of the board is different from the influence of supervisor on frontline teams. Very different. But the higher the rank, the stronger your shadow. And that's why authorities' declarations from some offices is like law. They trigger behavior and they trigger initiative. So leadership behavior becomes therefore very critical, and they can inspire confidence, mistrust, culture of respect, culture of hard work, culture of innovation, depending on where the leadership behavior is aligning to. And of course, we begin to hear, dissonance, dissonance like value gap. And value gap is when we speak of these values as an organization, but we see the leadership behaving otherwise, then there is different. There is also a strategy gap where we are saying this is what you are doing, but we are actually putting resources in the other direction, and those are behaviors that influence the culture and, most importantly, the efficiency and productivity of the organization.
And when you look at the future of HR and organizational leadership, well, today is International HR Day. So what do you think, or what do you believe the future is demanding from HR leaders and executives if organizations are to remain resilient and relevant?
A very nice question there, Mike. From where I stand, I believe that the future workplace will belong to organizations that actually believe that they are more human. They can be able to balance humanity and performance. And why do I say this? Because we've seen increasingly the tendency for organizational leadership to be preoccupied a lot with performance, KPIs, targets. There's so much pressure to deliver. There's so much pressure to actually extend our, territories and growth until we forget that behind all this, there is human beings. And there is going to be much need for recognition of humanity in the workplace as we pursue the workplace. And that is one of the biggest shifts that we are going to actually experience for any organization that I think is going to transition even to the future of work. And what do I mean? There's a book I like a lot. It's written by a gentleman called Eduardo. It's about paradox of performance. And while we pursue performance, it can get to a point where it becomes toxic performance, especially when it gets to infringe the rights and balance of life of human beings. And there, when you talk about the future of HR, therefore, you begin to see we have to move, like I said, even beyond understanding people. We lead people, but it's our business to understand people and to unlock potential for people for the business. But now we have to transcend to actually being able to understand the business. To be able to understand leadership dynamics, organizational dynamics, retention strategies for the current kind of workforce. And that requires evolution in terms of how we contribute skill capacity, learn and relearn and unlearn some things for us. And number 3 is that HR definitely. And one thing I like about the times we are in and where we are going is there's some heightened awareness, even from leadership side, that things that were perceived as, side conversations, nice to have things like issues to do with employee experience in the workplace, culture of the workplace. They're becoming very critical strategic pillars that leadership is recognizing today that they're critical. And therefore you see the relevance of HR is also evolved to leading these aspects, being able to move employee experience that resonates and motivates and empowers employees to lock on well, and so on and so forth. So yes, the future of HR, of the workplace from an HR and leadership perspective, I believe is being able to balance these two things, humanity and definitely performance. And I'm reminded of a certain guru who I think is Aristotle, who said the future belongs not to those who know how to read and write, but also those who are able to adapt, learn and be able to relearn again. Yes.
When you think about change in an organization, sometimes when that is happening, there's always a clash between change and company culture. That clash. Because sometimes maybe employees may resist new ways of working. How then, from your perspective, does HR steward the organizations, people, and company culture in as much as achieving this change is concerned?
You know what, you've said something very interesting, that there's a clash between culture and change. And whenever there's change, there is culture shift.
Yes.
In other words, you can't delink those. I give you an example. If you're changing even a simple change like the clocking time system.
Yeah.
And then we are used to finding someone at the gate, just write your name, and you've gotten here, Mike, at 8:30. Yeah, that's our old clocking system. And you tell them, we make things easy. We just put a gadget here, unaweka kidole, your finger there, and you're good to go. So we'll pick. And it sounds simple, right? That is change. But where is it linking with the culture? Hey, I'm just used to telling Mike, I'm late. I might come at 9. Yeah. You just sign for me. That increases the sense of transparency and heightened, what do you call it, transparency of information.
Yes.
And how we actually honestly show up in the workplace. But look, that affects some of my freedoms that I have been, experiencing before. So what does that do? I feel it's affecting me. And this change affects culture because first of all, culture itself is an evolving, dynamic thing in an organization that it's also shifted by any form of change that is happening in an organization. So how does HR architect these two? Number one, I think, is first realizing what we've spoken about, that change is not logical, it's 90%. Is emotional. So as we move to instill change, we have to actually understand that and therefore follow a more emotional, appealing change management structure. And what does that look like? Number one is being able to understand that the 4 things that I mentioned, those steps, context, alignment, people questions, actually is there a mechanism to make sure we decipher all kind of questions people are asking to create clarity for change. That is the responsibility of HR. And HR also needs to actually ask, do my people have the capacity to actually move with this change? Like, for example, currently there's a lot that is going on in organization about adoption of artificial intelligence, agents, and so on and so forth. But the question is, as we know the rest of the businesses that we're relating in this sector are doing that, are our people ready in terms of skill set and capacity to be able to plug in? Because the moment you put the horse before the cart, then you definitely know it's going to stall, it's not going to work. And that, what does that mean? There is a lot of capacity development for your people that HR you need to do, including your top management, without assuming because they are leaders, they know, they need capacity to drive this change. Because even a bigger expectation is on your table than in any other person's table. And number 3 is, how are we going to make sure that we keep people motivated to move with this change? And that's what I was calling the reinforcement mechanism and systems. For example, if it is about a system that people haven't used, and it's quite difficult, we have to go through this model to learn. The first people who demonstrate progress always require reinforcement, positive reinforcement, so that the rest see, oh yeah, Mike actually is able to do that. And we make a lot of noise about it and maybe recognize, and the rest of the people. So mechanisms for reinforcement is very critical. And above all, it is our role as HR professional also to take their pulse and know how people are responding as human beings to this change. Because we also have our lives. There could be issues that are beyond what you're running in the organization. And that's what I'm calling the humanity phase in the workplace. There are people, and definitely even from a psychological point of view, people respond to change differently. Some don't care, they just jump in, ianguke tuendelee, they are still fine. There are those who are completely depressed. So understanding the human perspective on adoption of change and moving with their pace while you use your tools to accelerate it is very critical.
And finally, as you reflect on your journey and the impact that you continue to create within the HR ecosystem, what kind of leadership legacy do you hope to inspire, especially in organizations and within the next generation of HR professionals?
A very nice question. Actually, talking about reflection, that's very true, because we all want to make impact, just like the way I'm very intentional about leaving a certain legacy in organization. And my number one legacy in this work I do is to be able to actually demonstrate that organization need to balance, again, humanity without losing performance. If we get organization to get to that point, I mean, I shall make a critical mark in the work I do. And secondly is to have this shift, especially in upcoming young professionals, that we need to see ourselves differently. And speaking to, for example, those who are upcoming in HR, not as administrators, not just people who are supporting, but you perceive yourself as a full person who can architect a full strategic transformation within your space. And that changes a lot of things when you show up with that kind of mindset in the workplace. And the third one is hopefully to get to this point where leadership and people who have the power control are able to realize the influence their leadership behavior has in an organization. And when we get leaders to actually understand their behavior is a trigger for the kind of culture and how people will show up in the workplace, we shall have won a lot of the war in the workplace. Yes, and these things are not easy things that you can just learn in a day, just like I've had 16 years, and I see HRs and leaders struggling in being able to front these things. And that's why we've created platforms also very critical in being able to bring this practically into people's faces, and people can learn from one another, from Mike, from another we put experts who've had these experiences and driven successful initiatives and driven institutions that are productive and sustainability in this platform. And one of them is the CEOs and HR leaders converge that happens at Blue Concepts Africa once in a year. It's upcoming next June. Yes, we call people of interest and growth to join in June. It's 5th June here in Nairobi at Emara. It's an evening of clear conversations around triggers, HRs and leaders of all kinds, where we put CEOs, MDs and HR leaders together and have this discussion.
Asante sana.
Thanks very much.
Damaris Dungwa is an organizational development strategist and HR ecosystem builder. Today being International HR Day, it's a day that it's an acknowledgement of professionals who nurture talent, drive continuous learning, and keep the human element at the core of business in every organization. And one of the things that has come out from this conversation is that change is more about the people, not about the place. This is where this conversation ends. Thank you for tuning in. We'll wrap up this conversation and wrap up Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe. Thank you for tuning in. Up next is Bentro Enjoy with News Check. Stay with us.
Letting him pay made you feel bad. I'll think of a way to pay him back.
That's not it. I'm just mad at myself.
I'm gonna tell you these things, but you'll get mad. You're just too worked up.
I stood outside a door all day, looking at the same old scenery, never going anywhere. Our lives were once unconnected, but I couldn't help but look at the horizon and imagine what she was doing.
Hello, fabulous ladies, welcome to the talk show that's all about sisterhood, empowerment, and unfiltered conversation. We will be focusing on women. We believe in women.
We are really changing.
We are creating a safe space for women to connect, thrive, and share.
Just because you're a woman on a bike, you're labeled in a certain way.
It's not just a talk show, it's a movement.
When they are standing, we need to stand out.
From heartwarming tales to hilarious adventures.
They could ask me, Catherine, why are you learning?
We are turning the spotlight on women who are breaking barriers in their individual fields.
You have to have a vision.
You are the leaders of Kenya today.
Keeping it honest and relatable.
Mental health is real.
Yes.
Where there is no communication, there is no relationship.
Join the sisterhood on KBC TV for Dada's Show.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
Nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hot,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma, jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufanya